Chapter 6:11. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 6:13. Astonishment from the deceased emperor. The spirit of the deceased emperor could only feel his surroundings turning pitch black, as if he had fallen into a boundless rift. An indescribable chill exploded in his heart and spread throughout his body, causing him to be unable to move. Advertisement. Access. He subconsciously sensed something, causing him to raise his head and glance upward. Following a glimpse, his mind went blank as if he had just been struck by lightning. In the darkness, Qin Nan's eyes were tightly shut, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. Behind Qin Nan stood a giant, terrifying, imperious, magnificent humanoid martial spirit, whose head was slightly lowered. Its left eye was filled with disdain. It was as if a deity from the 9 heavens was looking down on a mere mortal. When the spirit of the deceased emperor had established the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, he had encountered countless experts, and had even fought against martial progenitor realm experts. He had even seen a martial monarch with his own eyes, but he had never felt so terrified before. The fear originated from his soul, from his instincts. At that instant, he felt like he had turned into a tiny ant, and the person standing before him was not a giant, but a divine god of battle capable of destroying the heavens. The spirit of the deceased emperor opened his mouth, which trembled. Such a terrifying martial spirit, was it only an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit? Even a Tian-ranked martial spirit did not possess such a terrifying aura. Ignorant. At that instant, an icy voice could be heard. A copper mirror had appeared out of nowhere in the darkness. It felt like a woman was standing inside the mirror, staring down at the spirit of the deceased emperor with an imperious aura. Sky-scorching emperor, you better open your eyes wide. Otherwise, you'll be implicated in some things, and the sins you've committed are not something you can bear. A furious roar could be heard as an ancient pagoda appeared in the darkness. The pagoda was none other than the martial serendipity pavilion. The spirit of the deceased emperor felt like his scalp was about to explode. He could sense an imperious aura from the copper mirror, one that surpassed the aura of a martial monarch. The pagoda before him was the legendary martial serendipity pavilion. How could there be such a terrifying existence by Duan Qing's side? Furthermore, it seemed like they were only here because of Duan Qing's 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit. Wake up! Don't blow this up! The woman in the bronze mirror coldly shouted, "Read!" Qin Nan's body shook violently. His tightly closed eyes suddenly opened. Voila! The pitch-black space vanished as the experts on the heaven-worshipping ground snapped furiously. The eyes of the Skyhowl White Tiger and the others flickered with joy. It was as if everything that had happened just now had never happened. Only the spirit of the deceased emperor could feel everything clearly. If he had a physical body, he would have collapsed to the ground by now. Just now it was too terrifying. As for Qin Nan, he was completely unaware of the appearance of the bronze mirror and the martial serendipity pavilion, and the terrifying transformation of the divine battle spirit. The only thing he knew was that the divine battle spirit was infuriated, and so was he. However, it felt like the bronze mirror had uttered a roar to calm the anger in his heart. I dare you to say that again. Even though his anger had dissipated, the murderous intent in Qin Nan's eyes did not decrease. He gathered all his force and prepared to execute the heavenly accumulating strike. The spirit of the deceased emperor shuddered violently as he quickly collected his thoughts and blurted out, "Duan Qing, I apologize for what happened just then. I hope you won't hold it against me. Really. Besides, your martial spirit is a lot stronger than mine. I was too blind." The apology came from the bottom of his heart. Even though Qin Nan was clueless about what had happened, he had witnessed it with his own eyes. The fear he felt when facing the divine battle spirit, The astonishment he felt when facing the mysterious copper mirror and the martial serendipity pavilion were like nails that penetrated his soul, leaving him with an unforgettable memory. The words of the spirit of the deceased emperor caused the crowd to be stunned for a moment. What just happened? Did they just see the spirit of the deceased emperor apologizing to Duan Qing? Qin Nan was startled too. Why would the spirit of the deceased emperor apologize all of a sudden? Could it be? A thought flashed across Qin Nan's mind. There was no doubt that the divine battle spirit had displayed its power to intimidate the spirit of the deceased emperor. Everyone, listen up. All of you, shut up about this matter. Don't talk about it. The spirit of the deceased emperor quickly turned around and glanced at everyone at the heaven-worshipping ground as he snapped. Remember this. Anyone who dares to offend me will be considered an enemy of the entire sky-scorching ancient kingdom. As soon as these words came out, all the experts were dumbfounded. Why was the spirit of the deceased emperor so murderous when he was rejected by Duan Qing? How did it turn out like this in the blink of an eye? Brother Duan Qing, it's my fault for what happened just then. I hope you won't hold it against me, how's that? The spirit of the deceased emperor turned around and spoke to Qin Nan in a sincere tone. At this moment, all the experts revealed a look of shock in their eyes. K-me. The spirit of the deceased emperor really apologized to Duan Qing. Twice in a row. It's fine. Qin Nan's expression calmed down after seeing his reaction, but his tone remained icy. That's great. The spirit of the deceased emperor let out a sigh of relief. His eyes were filled with a strong sense of regret. This time, he had really misjudged Duan Qing. He did not expect Duan Qing to be related to such a mysterious martial spirit, the martial serendipity pavilion, and the mysterious copper mirror. If he knew this would happen, he would not have scolded Duan Qing like that. That's enough. Just like that, the matter just now is over. The spirit of the deceased emperor adjusted his thoughts and yelled facing the crowd, "Since Duan Qing has rejected my offer, I'll choose a new successor." Hearing this, the hearts of the crowd shuddered. Even though the spirit of the deceased emperor had changed his attitude all of a sudden, and even apologized to Duan Qing twice in a row, which was extremely strange, the most important thing now was to choose a successor. Whoever was able to acquire the spirit of the deceased emperor would have a great chance. In particular, the eyes of the Skyhowl White Tiger and Di Fengyun flickered with excitement. Deceased emperor. Di Fengyun took a step forward and was about to speak. Duan Qing had already rejected the offer. He was the only one in the entire sky-scorching ancient kingdom who was qualified to inherit the spirit of the deceased emperor. However, before he could finish his sentence, he heard the spirit of the deceased emperor roar, "Scram!" Di Fengyun's mind buzzed as he stood rooted to the ground. Why? Did the deceased emperor ask him to piss off all of a sudden? What was the meaning of this? Before the crowd could react, the spirit of the deceased emperor turned around and glanced at Qin Nan with a smile. "Brother Duan Qing, how about this? I can't pass my spirit of the deceased emperor to you, but it's the same if I pass it to someone else. As for who the successor is, I'll let you decide." Chapter 6:12. A genius will remember love in a second/small? I'm here to provide you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 6:14. The White Tiger makes its move. That one sentence almost overturned the worldview of all the big shots present, making them wonder if their ears had misheard. 79. An ownerless martial spirit that could alter one's destiny. How great of a fortunate encounter was it, and he was asking a mere Duan Qing to make the decision? First, Duan Qing had rejected it, and now, the deceased emperor had apologized twice, and even asked Duan Qing to decide the owner of the martial spirit. Were they both out of their minds? However, they had no idea that the spirit of the deceased emperor was actually doing Qin Nan a favor. How could a person who possessed the primary force, the mysterious martial spirit, the mysterious copper mirror, and the protection of the martial serendipity pavilion be ordinary? The spirit of the deceased emperor was certain that in the near future, Duan Qing would surely stir a terrifying storm and eliminate all his enemies, allowing him to reach a peak that they could never reach. Besides, regardless of who the martial spirit was given to, the person who acquired it would inherit its will and protect the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. Killing two birds with one stone, why not? Of course, when it came to Di Fengyun, how could he not know that the White Tiger, who was scheming against him, stood behind him? Qin Nan was stunned, as he did not expect the situation to come to this. On second thought, he could roughly guess the spirit of the deceased emperor's intention. Young brother Duan Qing, I'm being serious. I'm not too familiar with the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, but you might be more familiar with it. It's decided then. Saying this, the spirit of the deceased emperor suddenly emitted a glow, before it transformed into a white badge that fell into Qin Nan's hand. Destroying one's martial spirit and refining the badge would alter one's destiny. Young brother Duan Qing, the Skyhowl White Tiger will make its move soon. You will be able to control the guardian warriors. The spirit of the deceased emperor suddenly transmitted his voice into Qin Nan's mind. Qin Nan's eyes flickered, but he did not say anything. He asked instead, "Why didn't you do it yourself after setting up the traps?" The spirit of the deceased emperor fell silent for a few breaths' time, before he slowly said, "I couldn't do it." After he finished speaking, there was dead silence. Qin Nan was slightly startled, before he let out a sigh without saying anything. His eyes became sharp. The Skyhowl White Tiger and Di Fengyun were his enemies, and since they had taken the initiative to attack him, it was time for him to retaliate. Meanwhile, on the heavenly sacrificial ground, all the experts stared blankly at the white token in Qin Nan's hand. Was he really going to let Duan Qing make the decision? In an instant, the eyes of almost all the experts became burning hot and their breathing quickened. Obtaining this token would change one's fate. Duan Qing. At that instant, a shocking roar could be heard, which turned out to be the Skyhowl White Tiger, who snapped, "How dare you make the decision with the spirit of the deceased emperor? Since you rejected the previous emperor, according to the rules, this ownerless martial spirit should belong to Di Fengyun." Although the situation had completely exceeded the Skyhowl White Tiger's expectations, causing it to feel extremely furious, there was no need to waste any more time. It would be enough to rob the badge from Duan Qing. Bang! The Skyhowl White Tiger transformed into its true form, whose enormous figure emitted a shocking murderous aura. Love go little say, Chew the aura of the entire place changed completely. A baleful aura soared, like a huge rope suddenly tightening. Skyhowl White Tiger, don't you dare! A figure engulfed in flames sprang into the sky, who was none other than Zhou Bihua. Beside him, Elder Wang and Lin Fengshao appeared at the same time. Although the incident was extremely strange, the final result was that Duan Qing had acquired the ownerless martial spirit. In other words, they had won the battle. They had to stop the Skyhowl White Tiger at all costs. White Tiger platoon. Everyone, step forward at once. Everyone, attack. The Skyhowl White Tiger uttered a ferocious roar, which felt like it could shatter the heavens. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At that instant, the figures of the ministers and experts sprang into the sky, each emitting a magnificent aura. In the blink of an eye, there were over 400 people. These over 400 people were the geniuses that the Skyhowl White Tiger had trained for many years in the White Tiger platoon. Now, with a single roar from the Skyhowl White Tiger, the geniuses of the past had gathered together into an army of experts. Vermilion Bird Platoon. Black Tortoise Platoon. Zhou Bihua and Lin Fengshao uttered a roar as they gave out the order. However, only a few hundred figures sprang into the sky and responded to the order, unleashing their auras. Meanwhile, the experts of the two platoons remained seated on the ground, not in a rush to make their move. The battle had only just begun. If they were to be involved, the consequences would be unimaginable. Haha, do you really think you can stop us with just your two platoons? Kill! The Skyhowl White Tiger charged forward with a tremendous murderous aura, unleashing a boundless sacred force in an intimidating manner. Even Zhou Bihua, Lin Fengxiao, and the rest of the experts were unable to stop it. Although the sky-scorching ancient kingdom had 3 great experts, the strongest among them was the Skyhowl White Tiger, whose cultivation had reached the peak martial sacred realm even though it was not as powerful as before. Master Skyhowl White Tiger, this is the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. If we were to fight here, it would damage the peace between us. Why don't we follow the orders of the deceased emperor? Whoosh! A figure descended from the sky, who was none other than the sky-scorching emperor. Although he was still clueless as to what had happened between the deceased emperor and Duan Qing, he was quite fond of Duan Qing, not to mention that it was the orders of the deceased emperor, thus it went without saying that he would side with Duan Qing. Emperor, are you trying to interfere with the conflict between the 3 platoons? Are you trying to help them? The Skyhowl White Tiger's eyes emitted a terrifying aura as it showed no intention of backing off. For many years, the sky-scorching emperor had never interfered with the conflict between the 3 platoons. The reason being that no matter which side he sided with, it would never end well. The sky-scorching emperor glanced at Duan Qing and said with a calm smile, "I'm only following the will of the deceased emperor." Following the will of the deceased emperor. In other words, helping Duan Qing? Very well. Do you really think you can stop me with just the 2 of you? If anyone dares to stop me today, I'll kill them. The Skyhowl White Tiger suddenly uttered a roar, causing the entire White Tiger City to tremble. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. Bang! 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 One after another, the space was shattered as several figures stepped out from it. Each of them possessed a cultivation of at least the peak martial highness realm, and there were a total of 30 of them. 3 of them were even martial sacred realm cultivators, especially the middle-aged man, who was a peak martial sacred realm cultivator, who was on par with the Skyhowl White Tiger. At this moment, the expressions of everyone present changed. Even Zhou Bihua, Lin Fengxiao, and the sky-scorching emperor wore dark expressions, as they did not expect the Skyhowl White Tiger to do such a thing. These people were the leader, vice-leader, and supreme elder of the trading alliance. The Skyhowl White Tiger, colluding with the trading alliance. Chapter 613. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 615. The Arrival of the Two Beasts. The 4 great factions of the eastern continent of the Upper District, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom and the trading alliance, were both located in White Tiger City for some reason. That was fast. Although the 2 factions had been competing with one another in secret, they had never interfered with one another on the surface. However, to their surprise, the Skyhowl White Tiger had colluded with the trading alliance. Zhou Bihua, the sky-scorching emperor, and the others were enraged. Currently, there were 6 martial sacred realm experts in total, including the 3 martial sacred realm experts of the trading alliance. Furthermore, there were countless martial highness realm experts from the White Tiger platoon, the trading alliance, the Vermilion Bird platoon, and the Black Tortoise platoon. With so many experts gathered at the same place, their auras alone caused the entire heaven-worshipping ground to tremble slightly. The statue of the deceased emperor emitted a glow as if it was aware of something, which encapsulated the ground like a veil, forming a strong defense. The guardian of the statue of the deceased emperor remained still inside the golden circle, as if it was unaware of what was going on. The battle took place all of a sudden. The Skyhowl White Tiger, the leader, the vice-leader, and the supreme elder of the trading alliance. The auras of the four martial sacred realm experts were unleashed like a raging ocean, causing the surrounding space to collapse. The eyes of the experts behind them flickered coldly. At that instant, the powerful auras completely suppressed the sky-scorching emperor, Zhou Bihua and Lin Fengshao, as if a huge boat was standing before a small boat. It was easy to tell which side was stronger. The white tiger moves, the heart of a god. Di Fengyun, kill Duan Qing and take the badge. At that instant, the Skyhowl White Tiger came to a stop and uttered a roar, emitting an invisible force. Love go little say, W. Chu Di Fengyun's figure shuddered as the illusionary figure of a white tiger floated out from his chest. At that instant, it was as if his aura had received some sort of boost, as it rose to the martial sacred realm. You're inside my body. Di Fengyun's face was filled with astonishment. He never thought that apart from the clone of the Skyhowl White Tiger, there was another trick hidden inside his body. What are you waiting for? Now! The Skyhowl White Tiger roared. Considering the current situation, the Skyhowl White Tiger had no reason to be intimidated by them. However, if they could acquire the badge through Di Fengyun, they would be able to achieve victory without a fight. Do it! Di Fengyun came to his senses. Right now, he had to kill Duan Qing and get the token. Boom! At that instant, a tremendous suppression of the martial sacred realm burst out from Di Fengyun's body and locked onto Qin Nan's figure, accumulating the force of the heavens and earth into a terrifying blow. Not good! Zhou Bihua, the sky-scorching emperor, and the others were startled. However, at that instant, the leader of the trading alliance wore a cold grin as he unleashed a peerless ancient martial art toward Zhou Bihua, the sky-scorching emperor, and the others. Everyone's figures were forcibly held back. Even if he could only stall for a breath's time, Di Fengyun's terrifying killing move would be completed. Duan Qing, die! Di Fengyun uttered a roar. Duan Qing might be able to resist a half-martial sacred's attack, but there was no way he could resist a martial sacred's attack. Qin Nan remained calm as he glanced at the guardian knight. The knight stomped his foot as his eyes flickered coldly. A love go little say W. Chu, how bold! A mere Di Fengyun dares to attack Duan Qing. Before it was the guardian warrior's turn, a loud shout suddenly rang out. The void in the sky suddenly shattered, and an ancient towering purple tree appeared before everyone's eyes. It was the Dragon Abyss Tree. However, the Dragon Abyss Tree was no longer the same. Its body was emitting a sacred aura, indicating that it had successfully ranked up to the martial sacred realm. It was all thanks to Qin Nan's Chaos Chi. Therefore, when the Dragon Abyss Tree was aware of the rare occurrence of the heaven-worshipping feast, it immediately tore the rift apart and arrived without hesitation. What? The Skyhowl White Tiger and the others were stunned. They did not expect the Dragon Abyss Tree to protect Duan Qing. Whoosh! The Dragon Abyss Tree swiftly reacted, causing countless grass, flowers, and trees to grow rapidly around Qin Nan's figure like bamboo shoots after a rain. In the blink of an eye, a giant curtain encapsulated Qin Nan's figure within it. Bang! Di Fengyun's attack failed to penetrate the barrier. After all, he had only achieved the martial sacred realm with the help of the Skyhowl White Tiger. He was no match against the Dragon Abyss Tree, who had overcome the tribulation of the heavens and earth. Nice! Zhou Bihua and the others yelled out in astonishment. Switch positions. However, at that instant, the Skyhowl White Tiger moved all of a sudden as it swung its giant claw in the air. A formation appeared in mid-air and instantly absorbed its figure, before spitting out Di Fengyun's figure from the formation. The Skyhowl White Tiger's figure landed above Qin Nan. It turned out that the Skyhowl White Tiger had already set up a trap inside Di Fengyun's body, waiting for Di Fengyun to acquire the spirit of the deceased emperor before devouring his body. However, it did not expect a series of events to take place. Now, it had managed to switch positions with Di Fengyun. Die. The skyhowl white tiger kicked its legs and dashed toward Qin Nan like a beam of light. Its speed was so fast that even the dragon abyss tree, the sky-scorching emperor, and the rest of the experts could not react in time. The skyhowl white tiger, the strongest expert of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, peak martial sacred realm. It would only take a tenth of a breath's time to kill Duan Qing at such a short distance. In the blink of an eye, following a loud whoosh, a giant figure appeared behind the skyhowl white tiger like a phantom. The figure turned out to be the guardian of the statue of the deceased emperor. The skyhowl white tiger's figure stiffened. As it turned its head around, the guardian threw a punch at it with a terrifying destructive force. Damn it! The skyhowl white tiger's expression changed tremendously as it swiftly defended itself. Despite that, its figure was still knocked over 10 steps backward. Even though the guardian was no match against it, the attack was too sudden. In other words, it was impossible for him to kill Duan Qing in an instant. He's controlling the guardian. At that instant, the people of the Trading Alliance and the White Tiger platoon were astounded. They did not expect this Duan Qing to be so difficult to kill, who had the help of the Dragon Abyss Tree and now the Guardian. Skyhowl White Tiger, what are you waiting for? The leader of the Trading Alliance uttered a roar amidst the attacks. Sure. The eyes of the Skyhowl White Tiger flickered ferociously. Now, it was time to kill the Guardian and the Dragon Abyss Tree. Duan Qing, no one will be able to save you today. The Skyhowl White Tiger glared at Duan Qing with its bloodshot eyes. Their plan had been ruined by this young man time and time again, causing it to be extremely infuriated. It could not wait to tear him into pieces. While speaking, a terrifying aura was unleashed from the Skyhowl White Tiger's body. It was planning to use a forbidden technique to destroy everything in its path. Even though it was a great price to pay, it was worth it. It was all for the sake of altering its destiny. Is that so? At that instant, Qin Nan's expression remained calm, as if he was not affected at all. Following this, 2 shocking explosions took place in the sky, as 2 terrifying auras poured down like a raging ocean. The Skyhowl White Tiger held its breath as its face was filled with astonishment. It raised its head and glanced into the sky. Following a glimpse, its eyes widened. The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise had arrived. Chapter 6:14. Genius 1 Second. Remember love divided by little? Here's a great novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 6:16. Howl of the Heavens. Retreat of the Alliance. The sudden appearance of the 2 auras caused the battle to come to a standstill. All the experts subconsciously raised their heads to look, and when they did, it was as if they had been struck by lightning. 79 XS 2 enormous beasts could be seen floating in the air. One of them was covered in flames, with blood-red wings that shrouded the entire sky. Its pair of prideful eyes glanced downward, as if everything was nothing but an ant before it. The other beast emitted a dim yellow glow, which was as solid as the ground, as if it were capable of suppressing thousands of demons. Following this, a phoenix cry and a beast roar swept across the sky and echoed in the entire White Tiger City, as if they were announcing to the people that the Emperor had returned after a few hundred years. All the experts in the heaven-worshipping ground, regardless of who they were instantly awakened and went crazy. Blood-winged vermilion bird. It's the blood-winged vermilion bird. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise. It's the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise. 2 godly beasts. The true forms of the 2 godly beasts. My God! I've only seen them in the portraits. I never thought I'd be able to see them with my own eyes. Didn't the 2 godly beasts fall? Why are they here today? Even the sky-scorching Emperor, the leader of the Trading Alliance, and the Skyhowl White Tiger were left in disbelief. Weren't the primordial spirits of the blood-winged vermilion bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise? Why were they here today? Had they returned to the world in the form of dominators? Had they come back to life? That was just a stream of their primordial spirit. It was extremely difficult to resurrect them. How had they come back to life? Vermilion Bird Platoon. Everyone, if you don't return to your position now, when will you? Black Tortoise Platoon. Everyone, I've returned to the world, why aren't you listening to my orders? At that instant, the blood-winged Vermilion Bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise uttered thunderous roars. A love go little say, w-chu-bing-ng. Bang, bang. A series of explosions rang out at the same time. Flames and mystical rays burst out from the bodies of the experts that had joined the battle, and those that had yet to join the battle on the heaven-worshipping ground, which were the auras of the Vermilion Bird and the Black Tortoise. The reason being that they were once members of the Vermilion Bird Platoon and the Black Tortoise Platoon, thus they had practiced the ancient martial arts of the Vermilion Bird Platoon and the Black Tortoise Platoon. Following the roars of the Vermilion Bird Platoon and the Black Tortoise, the ancient martial arts in their bodies seemed to come alive and respond to the call. Ancestor. I never thought that I would be able to see you again one day. I'm the 87th batch member of the Vermilion Bird Platoon. How could I not welcome the arrival of the Ancestor? Do it. The experts who had yet to join the battle and were merely spectators could no longer sit still. They immediately rose to their feet and flew toward Qin Nan with powerful cultivations. As everyone knew, since the blood-winged Vermilion Bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise had fallen, the Vermilion Bird Platoon and the Black Tortoise Platoon had declined significantly. Even Zhou Bihua and Lin Fengxiao, the two battalion commanders, couldn't mobilize many people. However, the blood-winged Vermilion Bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise were different. They were the founding godly beasts of the Vermilion Bird Platoon. They were the legends that the experts had heard about since they were young. They were the beliefs and totems of the Vermilion Bird Platoon and the Black Tortoise Platoon. With the two godly beasts, the two platoons were the real Vermilion Bird Platoon and the Black Tortoise Platoon. At that instant the experts had gathered. Behind Zhou Bihua and Lin Fengxiao, a huge troop was formed. Each of them had a tremendous aura, as if they were brimming with energy, capable of stirring the wind and crushing everything in their path. Even the terrifying formation formed by the Skyhowl White Tiger and the Trading Alliance was suppressed by the aura. The reason being that this was the true strength of the two platoons. This day has finally arrived. Zhou Bihua and Lin Fengxiao felt as if their blood was boiling. They were so excited that they couldn't control themselves. Even though they already knew that the two godly beasts had been resurrected, when they saw the two godly beasts arriving at the dojo and summoning the experts, they finally felt relieved. However, at that instant, a furious roar echoed in the sky, which turned out to be the Skyhowl White Tiger with a ferocious expression. How is this possible? How did you two come back to life? Even the entire kingdom wouldn't be able to bring you back to life. The Skyhowl White Tiger completely lost its calm at that instant. As one of the three godly beasts, it clearly knew how difficult it was to bring them back to life. But now, the blood-winged Vermilion Bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise had actually come back to life. What was going on? Vermilion Bird Platoon, listen up. Black Tortoise Platoon, listen up. The blood-winged Vermilion Bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise blurted out at the same time. You've all come back to life. It's all thanks to Duan Qing that you're able to see the light of day again. Today, the deceased emperor has asked Duan Qing, and the Skyhowl White Tiger and the others are planning to kill Duan Qing. We can't let them succeed at all costs. The words were equivalent to the astonishment brought by the appearance of the two godly beasts. Duan Qing? Duan Qing again? A mere peak martial dominator realm cultivator had resurrected two godly beasts? How did he do it? The ferocious expression on the Skyhowl White Tiger's face completely froze, as if it was stunned on the spot. Duan Qing, Duan Qing. These two words were like a nightmare, causing it to lose its calm, to be enraged, and to be utterly astonished. Kill. The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise uttered a roar as the two enormous beasts charged toward the sky-howl white tiger with terrifying might. Although their cultivations had only recovered to the 8th layer martial sacred realm, they had no problem dealing with the sky-howl white tiger with their combined strength. Protect Duan Qing. Snipe the enemy. At that instant, Zhou Bihua and Lin Fengshao uttered furious roars once again. The experts who had yet to recover from the shock shuddered and collected their thoughts. Their eyes flickered with tremendous battle intent. Regardless of whether it was real or not, they only knew that the two godly beasts had come back to life. They had to obey the orders of their ancestor. Kill. At that instant, a tremendous murderous intent was emitted as the vermilion bird platoon and the black tortoise platoon joined forces, resulting in a tremendous aura, like an atavistic chariot that crushed everything in its path, causing the people of the Trading Alliance and the White Tiger platoon to be knocked back. The Dragon Abyss tree emitted a godly glow as it fired countless branches, forming a godly tree armor on each of the experts, strengthening their defense and improving their strength rapidly. The sky-scorching Emperor held the Emperor's seal in his hand while emitting a golden glow. Each of his actions was capable of controlling the force of the heavens and earth, causing countless thunderbolts, flames, gusts of wind, and hailstones to surge toward the Trading Alliance and the White Tiger platoon like a surging tide. The two godly beasts suppressed the sky-howl white tiger in the blink of an eye. The guardian sprang into the sky and clenched its fists, accumulating the force of the atavistic realm before striking the chest of the sky-howl white tiger, causing it to cry out in pain as it spat out mouthfuls of blood. The outcome of the battle had been decided at once. Ha ha ha! Congratulations on the revival of the two godly beasts. The Trading Alliance has never interfered with your internal conflict. Senior Skyhowl White Tiger, I'm sorry. Let's go. At that instant, a roar could be heard all of a sudden, which turned out to be the leader of the Trading Alliance. His hand shattered the rift and tore open a huge rift. The sacred weapon on his body emitted a godly glow and wrapped around the experts of the Trading Alliance, before pulling them into the rift and teleporting them away. You guys! The Skyhowl White Tiger stared with its eyes open wide as it trembled in anger. These people of the Trading Alliance were indeed unreliable. Chapter 6:15. A genius will remember love in 1 second divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 6:17. Everyone made mistakes when they were young. A cold grin appeared on Qin Nan's face upon seeing this. A love go little say, W. Chu, please go to this book. Access. It was obvious that the Trading Alliance was helping the Skyhowl White Tiger because of the map he had. Now that the blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise had come back to life, they knew that they had no chance of winning the battle. Not participating in the internal conflict? What a joke! The Trading Alliance had always been shameless and immoral. The sudden withdrawal of the Trading Alliance on the heaven-worshipping ground served as a great pressure to the experts of the White Tiger platoon, who were on the verge of being devoured by the experts of the other two platoons. People of the White Tiger platoon, listen up. If you surrender now, I will not punish you after this is over. I will not suppress you either. I swear in the name of the Emperor. The sky-scorching Emperor's figure emitted a brilliant golden glow as he uttered an imperious roar. At that instant, the experts of the White Tiger platoon were filled with fear. Under the circumstances, they would surely lose the battle. Besides, the Emperor was not going to hold them responsible. I surrender. I choose to surrender. I don't want to fight anymore. When the first person surrendered, the experts of the White Tiger platoon immediately crumbled, resulting in a crushing defeat. The Skyhowl White Tiger was infuriated seeing this. It almost spat out a mouthful of blood. These people had no backbone at all. White Tiger, why aren't you stopping? If you do, we'll pretend that this never happened. The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise blurted out. Stop? I've been planning this for so many years, just to alter my destiny. You're asking me to stop? You want me to stop? The sky-howl white tiger wore a mocking grin as it suddenly waved its hand. Di Fengyun's eyes widened as he lost control of his body and flew toward the sky-howl white tiger. In the blink of an eye, Di Fengyun arrived before the sky-howl white tiger. The sky-howl white tiger reached out its hand and grabbed his neck, causing him to suffocate as his face reddened. The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise both frowned. What was this white tiger trying to do? Zhou Bihua, did you see that? Tell Duan Qing to hand over the soul of the deceased emperor. Otherwise I'll kill him. The sky-howl white tiger said coldly as it tightened its grip, leaving a trail of blood on Di Fengyun's neck. Save me! Di Fengyun's face was filled with terror. He had no doubt that the sky-howl white tiger would actually kill him. The two godly beasts and the experts stared at the scene coldly without showing any change in their expressions. Everyone knew that Di Fengyun had betrayed Zhou Bihua and joined the White Tiger Battalion. For such a heartless person, it was fine to kill him. They would not pity him in the slightest. Di Fengyun's eyes caught sight of some familiar faces. When he saw their icy gazes, for some reason, he could feel a darkness that was more terrifying than death, as if the entire world had abandoned him. Sky-howl white tiger, are you trying to threaten me with him? Zhou Bihua waved his hand. The experts immediately moved forward and surrounded the sky-howl white tiger's figure. The crowd remained silent, as if they were waiting for something. Ha, you're right. This piece of trash betrayed you, thus you've lost all feelings for him. Today I'll kill him. The sky-howl white tiger burst out laughing as it clenched its hand, trying to crush Di Fengyun's neck. It had spent a lot of effort on this piece of trash, but to its surprise, he was nowhere close to Duan Qing's level. It would not be able to vent its anger if it did not kill him today. Wait! Zhou Bihua suddenly spoke. What is it? The sky-howl white tiger's hand halted as its eyes flickered with disdain. The crowd was startled. Was Zhou Bihua seriously planning to use the spirit of the deceased emperor to save this guy? At that instant, the forces in the bodies of the experts became restless. Zhou Bihua could not do it, but they could. The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise shook their heads upon realizing this, causing the experts' hands to stiffen slightly. Senior, if you want it, I'll give it to you, Qin Nan said calmly. Zhou Bihua had helped him too much. If Zhou Bihua was serious about saving Di Fengyun, he would surely lend him a hand. Duan Qing, thank you. I'll deal with it myself. Zhou Bihua shook his head and glanced at Di Fengyun as if he were recalling something. He exclaimed with a hoarse voice, Who doesn't make mistakes when they're young? Even though I'm heartbroken by your betrayal, you're still my disciple. It's up to you whether you're going to live or not. I'll try my best for you. Bang! An illusionary flame burst out from Zhou Bihua's body as he swiftly performed a hand seal with his hands. This is... The eyes of the blood-winged vermilion bird widened. Following this, a piercing cry echoed in the sky. Zhou Bihua's figure had transformed into a vermilion bird made of flames, emitting a terrifying suppression. Puff, puff. The phoenix opened its mouth and spat out a drop of essence blood. One drop after another, a total of 7 drops fell in front of Di Fengyun like 7 footprints. Each drop of essence blood immediately surged with a monstrous bloody light and rushed into Di Fengyun's body. How bold! The sky-howl white tiger's expression changed tremendously as it clenched its hand. Bang! A terrifying vermilion bird flame burst out from Di Fengyun's body. The 7 steps of the vermilion bird had awakened the force of the vermilion bird. At that instant, The primordial spirit that the sky-howl white tiger had planted in Di Fengyun's body was shattered, allowing Di Fengyun to regain control of his body. Roar! A golden glow was emitted from Di Fengyun's back as his martial spirit floated above his body, unleashing its strongest power to break free from the sky-howl white tiger's clench, before charging in Zhou Bihua's direction. Master! A mournful scream seemed to pierce through the sky. The crowd could only see the flames on Zhou Bihua's body dissipating as he fell to the ground. His black hair had turned white, while his face was filled with wrinkles. He had turned from a peerless martial sacred to an old man in an instant. The 7 steps of the vermilion bird, the 7 steps of the vermilion bird, the forbidden art of the vermilion bird. It was capable of activating the force of any cultivator who practiced the vermilion bird art. Zhou Bihua had activated the force of the vermilion bird in Di Fengyun's body, causing him to suffer a great backlash from the attack. When the surrounding powerful beings saw this, they did not know what to feel in their hearts. Master! Di Fengyun ran up to Zhou Bihua and hugged him tightly with a pale face. His body trembled as his eyes reddened, filled with endless regret. Why did he betray Zhou Bihua? Was Zhou Bihua biased? Was Zhou Bihua suspicious of him? When the whole world had given up on him, this man was the only one who was willing to execute a forbidden technique to save him from the clutches of the Grim Reaper. Zhou Bihua did not teach him the art of the immortal vermilion bird because it was for his own good. Chapter 6:16. A genius will remember love in a second divided by small? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 6:18. The deceased emperor strikes. The white tiger disintegrates. Jin Nan let out a sigh upon seeing this. He was left speechless. A love go small say, W. Chu. The website is refreshing with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please leave a good review. He then glanced at the sky-howl white tiger. White tiger, why aren't you stopping? The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise snapped, causing the sky-scorching emperor and the experts to surround the sky-howl white tiger in an airtight formation. At that instant, the sky-howl white tiger was the only one left in the battle. Stop? I've put in so much effort to alter my destiny. You're asking me to stop? Don't think I'm afraid of you just because you have so many people on your side. Today, I'll kill Duan Qing and retrieve the spirit of the deceased emperor. White tiger disintegrate. The sky-howl white tiger uttered a furious roar as its figure emitted a blinding glow. Its enormous figure instantly doubled in size, as its cultivation of the peak martial sacred realm was upgraded to the half-martial ancestor realm. White tiger disintegrate. This was the strongest forbidden technique of the sky-howl white tiger, which served as a great boost to its cultivation by sacrificing its lifespan. Kill! The sky-howl white tiger stomped its foot and executed multiple killing techniques. At that instant, it was no longer the guardian of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, but the god of slaughter. How bold! The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise became enraged. The sky-howl white tiger was out of its mind. A terrifying battle was on the verge of taking place. Even though the sky-howl white tiger had unleashed its forbidden technique, allowing its cultivation to reach the half-martial ancestor realm, it was still being suppressed by the blood-winged vermilion bird and the rest of the authorities. Its body was covered in wounds, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Despite that, the murderous intent on its face did not decrease. Ha ha ha! None of you can stop me today. The sky-howl white tiger went mad as it swung its claws continuously. All of this was for the sake of defying the heavens and changing fate. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Full text reading 1. The surrounding space rippled like the waves of the sea. A heart-palpitating pressure slowly spread out in all directions. Shwa! The eyes of the statue of the deceased emperor sprang open all of a sudden, as if they were emitting countless rays of light. White tiger. The words of the statue of the deceased emperor felt like it was going to shatter the heavens and earth into pieces. This is the sky-scorching emperor, the blood-winged vermilion bird, and the others were stunned. They did not expect the statue of the deceased emperor to be awakened at this moment. Old bastard! What's wrong? Do you want to attack me? I knew that you were on guard against me from the very beginning. Come, let's see how a stone statue like you is my match. The sky-owl white tiger let out a furious roar and dashed toward the statue of the deceased emperor with a kick. No one knew where his anger came from. Suppress. The statue of the deceased emperor uttered a roar. Countless runes appeared in the surroundings, each in the shape of a mountain. There were over 10,000 of them, which descended onto the sky-owl white tiger's figure in the blink of an eye. Puff! The sky-owl white tiger spat out a mouthful of blood. Despite its cultivation of the half-martial ancestor, it had no chance against the statue of the deceased emperor. The blood-winged vermilion bird and the others hesitated upon seeing this. After all, the sky-owl white tiger was the founding godly beast of the ancient kingdom, thus it was inappropriate for them to kill it. It was better to leave it to the deceased emperor to deal with. Why are you so stubborn? Why do you insist on altering your destiny? Is it really that important to go against the heavens and change one's fate? The statue of the deceased emperor had a calm expression, neither angry nor sad. Old bastard! The sky-owl white tiger squeezed its voice out from its throat and mocked. If I don't alter my destiny, how am I going to achieve the martial ancestor realm? I'm going to achieve the martial ancestor realm, so that I can kill every single one of you. The words were uttered with a murderous aura. Is that so? The statue of the deceased emperor calmly said, Look at this kingdom, you're the one that built it. Why do you want to destroy it instead of protecting it? The sky-owl white tiger was startled. The crowd felt like a string had been plucked in their hearts. They were determined to become stronger, and were willing to do anything to achieve that. However, was becoming stronger the only thing in life? After the deceased emperor had fallen, he had turned his flesh into a statue to guard the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. He had refined a 10th-grade D-ranked martial spirit with his soul, so that he could leave it to his descendants. In the martial world, apart from becoming stronger, there were other important things to do. Old bastard! Cut the bullshit! I've made up my mind. No one is going to stop me today. The sky-owl white tiger uttered a roar. All of a sudden, an illusionary white tiger sprang out from the tiger's body and sprang toward Qin Nan's head. This scene happened too quickly, so quickly that no one could react. Crap! The blood-winged vermilion bird and the others were astounded as they collected their thoughts. The sky-owl white tiger was trying to devour Duan Qing. The statue of the deceased emperor let out a sigh upon seeing this, before it calmed down. "Oh, white tiger, I've warned you, but you're trying to kill yourself. Duan Qing, you've been hindering me all the time. From today onward, your body is mine." The primordial spirit of the sky-owl white tiger let out a hideous laugh as it sprang into Qin Nan's forehead and entered his divine sense. Qin Nan was startled. He did not expect the sky-owl white tiger to devour his body. If it were any other attack, Qin Nan would feel a great danger. However, his divine sense was being guarded by the copper mirror. Duan Qing. At that instant, the blood-winged vermilion bird, the kingdom protector black tortoise, the dragon abyss tree, the sky-scorching emperor, the first duke, and the rest of the crowd were startled. Either way, they could not let him be devoured by the sky-owl white tiger. Even if they had to execute forbidden techniques, they had to stop it. However, at that instant, "Piss off!" An icy female voice that felt like it originated from ancient times exploded in Qin Nan's divine sense. "That's the progenitor! The progenitor!" The sky-owl white tiger's soul was filled with unprecedented terror, before its primordial spirit was sent flying by a terrifying force. Bang! The blood-winged vermilion bird and the rest of the crowd were still executing forbidden techniques when the primordial spirit of the sky-howl white tiger was sent flying from Qin Nan's forehead. The previously ferocious sky-howl white tiger was currently lying on the ground on its last breath. It was only a hair's breadth away from death. At that instant the crowd was dumbfounded. That was the sky-howl white tiger. The primordial spirit of the sky-howl white tiger was sent flying and almost killed? Even an ordinary martial sacred realm expert would not have been able to do that. Who exactly are you? The primordial spirit of the sky-howl white tiger fell to the ground and stammered. The fear in its eyes had yet to dissipate. Little brother Duan Qing, please hand him over to me so that I can deal with him. This old man is begging you, the statue of the deceased emperor said slowly as it watched the scene. Qin Nan nodded after a slight hesitation. Thanks, the statue of the deceased emperor said, before glancing at the sky-howl white tiger and snapped, Do you admit your mistake? Mistake? Kill me if you want. The sky-howl white tiger wore a relieved expression. It had no idea if it was right or wrong, but it was slightly regretful at that instant. The statue of the deceased emperor reached out its hand and grabbed the primordial spirit of the sky-howl white tiger and its flesh, before emitting a mystical glow. The sky-howl white tiger had turned into a statue standing beside the statue of the deceased emperor. Its eyes glanced down at the land. Fine, you'll protect our country with me. The statue of the deceased emperor let out a sigh as the mystical glow inside its body slowly disappeared, turning it into a statue. The eyes of the sky-howl white tiger flickered, before it fell silent. Chapter 6:17. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 6:19. The soul belongs to the owner. The hidden dragon. Ranking Qin Nan watched the scene in silence. Marshmallow-79XS. In his opinion, the sky-howl white tiger had spent a few hundred years trying to acquire the spirit of the deceased emperor. Not only was it trying to alter its destiny, it was also because of some past conflict. At least, despite the anger of the blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise, they did not try to kill the sky-howl white tiger. The reason being that they had built the sky-scorching ancient kingdom together, and had experienced countless battles together. It was similar to Zhou Bihua and Di Fengyun, who had become enemies due to a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, the heaven-worshipping ceremony had finally come to an end. Everyone, I've got a candidate in mind for the spirit of the deceased emperor. Qin Nan was the first to break the silence. At that instant, the crowd immediately glanced at Qin Nan, causing their hearts to beat rapidly. The spirit of the deceased emperor, 10th grade D ranked, able to alter one's destiny. Whoever acquired it would have a great chance of achieving greatness. Long Hu's eyes emitted a brilliant glow as he stared at Qin Nan, as if he were trying to say, "Give it to me, give it to me." Qin Nan's mind darkened. Why would a beast like you want the spirit of the deceased emperor? The sky-howl white tiger had been eyeing the spirit of the deceased emperor as it had long planned to devour Di Fengyun's flesh and become a human. Third prince catch. Qin Nan flicked his finger and threw the white badge toward the third prince without hesitation. The third prince held the token in a daze and said, "This, the spirit of the deceased emperor belonged to him just like that." Duan Qing. The blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise blurted out at the same time. Was this asshole seriously looking down on the 10th grade D-ranked martial spirit? A love go little say ku. I've made up my mind, there's no need to explain further. Qin Nan knew that everyone was confused, so he waved his hand and said, not wanting to explain too much. Seniors, I hope you can keep the incident at the heaven-worshipping ground a secret. Qin Nan transmitted his voice to the sky-scorching emperor and the others. "Alright, I'll be leaving first." Following this, before the sky-scorching emperor and the others could ask anything, his figure left the place with a flicker. The crowd was stunned seeing Qin Nan leaving. The sky-scorching emperor, the blood-winged vermilion bird, and the others let out wry smiles. Duan Qing's action was undoubtedly not wanting to tell them anything. There were too many suspicious points in the series of events, such as Duan Qing rejecting the deceased emperor apologizing all of a sudden, allowing Duan Qing to decide who the martial spirit belonged to, the Skyhowl White Tiger's soul being half dead all of a sudden, etc. Duan Qing reads. The third prince came back to his senses. His eyes shone brightly and his body trembled slightly. This was because he was trembling with excitement. "Oh Duan Qing, I didn't expect you to give me such a great gift on the day I'm crowned as the crown prince. How am I supposed to repay you? If I were to reach the peak one day and become the ruler of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom will be your shield. No matter what happens, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom will always support you." The third prince swore an iron-like oath in his heart. A love go little say ko. Following this, the aftermath of the events took place. The sky-scorching emperor held a grand ceremony and rewarded Duan Qing with the titles of Courageous Marquis, Extraordinary Marquis, Top Genius of the Sky-Scorching Ancient Kingdom, etc. Furthermore, the blood-winged vermilion bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise were promoted to Kingdom Protector Elders, etc. As for Duan Qing's matters, the ministers chose to remain silent under the order of the sky-scorching emperor. Despite that, the news still spread to White Tiger City, resulting in a great uproar in White Tiger City. "Did you hear that Duan Qing's martial spirit is 8th grade D ranked?" "Nonsense, of course I did. Did you know that Duan Qing was the one who resurrected the blood-winged vermilion bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise?" "Humph, let me tell you, even the Skyhowl White Tiger was defeated by Duan Qing." Furthermore, the rare occurrence of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom had startled the Tao-seeking mountain and the Wanxiang pavilion. With the addition of 2 godly beasts, the strength of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom had improved significantly. As for Duan Qing's reputation, it was even more shocking in the eastern continent of the Upper District. That being said, under the order of the sky-scorching emperor, all the ministers had sworn oaths to not spread the news regarding the spirit of the deceased emperor. As a result, the news of the third prince acquiring a 10th grade D-ranked martial spirit was kept a secret from the other factions. Otherwise, it would result in a great storm. Meanwhile, at the Yellow Soil Dojo of the Vermilion Bird Platoon, Qin Nan sat with his legs crossed while staring into the sky. "It seems like I've gained nothing from the battle, but as a matter of fact, the Emperor of the Sky-Scorching Ancient Kingdom, the blood-winged vermilion bird, the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, and the Crown Prince have established a good relationship with me. In other words, I've received the support of the Sky-Scorching Ancient Kingdom in the past few months." Upon saying this, Qin Nan's eyes flickered sharply. A few months ago, he had been hunted by the 4 great factions in the eastern continent, but now, he had received the support of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. Not only that, his cultivation had improved to the first-layer martial highness realm, with a law-defying primordial spirit. It was only a matter of time before he achieved the undefeatable martial highness realm. Therefore, it would not take long for him to dominate the eastern continent with his identity as Qin Nan. Only half a month left until the disordered ocean of crimson blood is accessible. I wonder if Seniors Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others have ranked up to the martial sacred realm. Either way, I should improve my strength as soon as possible. Qin Nan straightened his face as a thought crossed his mind. The disordered ocean of crimson blood would be accessible in half a month's time. Once it was accessible, the disciples of various factions would swarm toward it. Tang Qingshan and his crew were currently ranking up to the martial sacred realm at the disordered ocean of crimson blood. If they were discovered by the four great factions, Progenitor Wendao and the rest of the authorities would be summoned here, which would put them in great danger. He had to go there himself to assist Tang Qingshan and his crew. Whoosh! At that instant, a figure approached Qin Nan from the sky. The person was none other than Elder Wang, who snapped after seeing Qin Nan, "The palace is holding a banquet. Everyone is there except for you. What are you trying to do?" Qin Nan immediately rose from his seat and said with a wry smile, "Elder Wang, I'm not interested in that kind of banquet. All right, I'm here to tell you some good news." Elder Wang shook his head with a smile as his eyes flickered. "You've made it to the Hidden Dragon ranking." Hidden Dragon ranking? Qin Nan was startled. What the hell was that? You've never heard of it before? Elder Wang wore a surprised expression before he spoke in a serious tone. The Hidden Dragon ranking is a ranking determined by the Trading Alliance, which is open to all the geniuses of the Eastern continent. The requirement is to have an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit and a cultivation below the martial sacred realm. In other words, the people on the Hidden Dragon ranking are all the geniuses of the Eastern continent. Qin Nan was intrigued. A gathering of all the geniuses of the Eastern continent? He had always been active in the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, thus he had never met the geniuses of the other three factions. Besides, among the four great factions, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom had the least number of geniuses. Di Fengyun was the only one with an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit. He was curious to see what his rank was on the Hidden Dragon ranking with his current cultivation. There are a total of 41 geniuses on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Take a look at yours. Elder Wang waved his hand, causing a black badge with the shape of a 5-pointed star to land in Qin Nan's hand. Qin Nan inserted a stream of the force of the Martial Highness realm into the badge, causing it to emit a glow that transformed into a glowing screen. On the screen, a row of words was written in a flamboyant manner. Duan Qing, 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit, came from the Heaven Ancient Kingdom. Expert in saber arts, 1st layer Martial Highness realm, able to face 3rd layer Martial Highness realm cultivators. Feng Bo of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom defeated Di Fengyun and turned the tables around, thus he is ranked 33rd. 33rd? Qin Nan was slightly startled. The information was not wrong, but his strength was still slightly weaker. With the Demon God's robe, he could easily defeat an ordinary 4th layer Martial Highness, or even 5th layer Martial Highness realm cultivators. Interesting, very interesting. I did not expect the eastern continent of the Upper District to have so many geniuses. Qin Nan collected his thoughts. It was as if his eyes were engulfed in flames. Although the heaven-worshipping feast was a significant event, there was not a single real genius who was willing to face Qin Nan in a duel. The reason being that Di Fengyun's cultivation had reached the peak Martial Highness realm, thus the difference between him and Qin Nan was too great. Chapter 6:18. Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 6:20 Defying the Heavens and Altering His Destiny. Utterly convinced after learning the existence of the Hidden Dragon ranking, Qin Nan focused on his cultivation. Regardless of whether it was the dukes or the ministers, none of them were willing to pay him a visit. Dollar, cotton, flour, candy, little say. Visit. There was no need for him to rely on his connections. His strength was the most important thing. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, a sound-conducting talisman arrived. Qin Nan's eyes sprang open as he grabbed the talisman. His eyes flickered as he opened it. The talisman was from the sky-scorching emperor. Is the third prince trying to alter his destiny? That's interesting, I should go take a look. Qin Nan tore the space apart and headed straight to the palace. Outside the palace, the butler of the third prince, Uncle Lin, was already waiting for him. He immediately said with a respectful tone upon seeing Qin Nan's arrival, "Master Qin Nan, allow me to show you the way." After a brief pause, Uncle Lin lowered his voice and said, "Master Duan Qing, thank you." Qin Nan immediately waved his hand. It was necessary for him to be respectful toward his elders. Under Uncle Lin's guidance, Qin Nan arrived at a garden deep inside the palace. The garden covered an area with a circumference of over 100 li. It was surrounded by experts of the royal guards hiding in the darkness. At the center of the garden stood Zhou Bihua, the kingdom protector black tortoise, the blood-winged vermilion bird, and the sky-scorching emperor. The 4 experts were stationed at the 4 cardinal directions, while the third prince sat at the center with his legs crossed. With the third prince at the center, several crystals were inserted into the ground in all directions. These crystals represented the forces of fire, ice, thunder, lightning, wind, rain, etc., forming a magical formation of nature. Qin Nan's arrival did not attract anyone's attention. Love go little say, Chu following a whoosh, a figure suddenly arrived, who turned out to be Di Fengyun. Di Fengyun was currently wearing the robe of the Vermilion Bird Platoon. The ferocious look on his face was replaced with a firm look. Vermilion Bird Platoon's 99th batch member, Di Fengyun, greets the battalion commander. When Di Fengyun saw Qin Nan, he cupped his hands together and shouted. His expression was solemn like that of a soldier. To read a book, please go to $cotton __flower _candy little says Qin Nan was slightly taken aback. He waved his hand and said indifferently, "You don't have to call me battalion commander." When Di Fengyun heard this, he said in a deep voice, "Battalion commander, I apologize on your behalf for what I have done in the past. I know that you will not be able to forgive me in a short period of time. However, I hope that you will not treat me as an outsider. You are my battalion commander. No matter what you need, as long as you say the word, I will go through water and tread on fire. If I have second thoughts, may I be struck by lightning." His words were like the clashing of golden spears, sonorous and resonant. He swore to the heavens. The unpleasant feeling in Qin Nan's heart dissipated after seeing his reaction. Knowing one's mistakes and being able to correct them was the greatest virtue. Besides, the fact that Di Fengyun had swore to the heavens was a clear indication of his sincerity. Di Fengyun was about to rank up to the martial sacred realm. Once that happened, if he was willing to help him sincerely to make up for his mistakes, Qin Nan would be willing to forgive him. As for now, no matter how Di Fengyun expressed his stance and swore to the heavens, Qin Nan would not fully accept him. It all depended on Di Fengyun's performance. Battalion commander, master and the authorities are currently constructing the formation to comprehend the secrets behind it. Why don't we use this opportunity to discuss martial arts? Di Fengyun let out a cough and wore an awkward expression. Your eye technique was extremely powerful at the Starry Pagoda, so I'm interested to know how powerful it is now. After saying this, Di Fengyun immediately added, "Don't worry, I'll suppress my cultivation to your level." He knew that Duan Qing had yet to forgive him, thus it was inappropriate for him to ask for such a favor now. Sure. Qin Nan agreed without hesitation. Since Di Fengyun wanted to witness his eye technique, he would use this chance to display his strength and convince him to submit to him. "Thank you, battalion commander." After expressing his gratitude, Di Fengyun unleashed his aura as his eyes emitted a glow, which transformed into the eyes of a white tiger. A terrifying ferocious aura was emitted from the eyes, which transformed into a ferocious tornado sweeping in Qin Nan's direction. This move is called the White Tiger Deadly Eyes. It's extremely powerful. Be careful, battalion commander. Di Fengyun yelled. White Tiger Deadly Eyes. Impressive indeed. Qin Nan was slightly impressed. His expression remained unchanged facing the ferocious tornado. When the tornado arrived 2 zhang away from him, Qin Nan's left eye emitted a thunderous glow. Break! Following a roar, a ray of starlight thunder was fired from his left eye, which instantly shattered the tornado into pieces. How powerful! Di Fengyun's eyes flickered with astonishment. Qin Nan was able to nullify his ferocious tornado with ease. Such an eye technique was utterly terrifying. However, Battalion Commander, if this is all you've got, I'm afraid you are still no match against my White Tiger deadly eyes. Di Fengyun uttered a roar as his eyes emitted a blinding white glow, which transformed into over 10 illusionary figures of white tigers charging in Qin Nan's direction with ferocious roars. This was the true strength of the White Tiger deadly eyes, able to summon white tigers to attack in all directions. Di Fengyun was extremely confident in the move. Even though Qin Nan's eye technique was extremely powerful, it would still take him a great effort to deal with it. Is that so? Qin Nan let out a calm smile. His expression remained as calm as ever, and he did not even move from his original spot. In the blink of an eye, over 10 illusionary figures of white tigers had appeared in front of Qin Nan with roars, charging at him from all directions, leaving him with nowhere to run. Battalion Commander! Di Fengyun's expression changed. Why wasn't Duan Qing making his move yet? He immediately stomped his foot and prepared to execute his move to eliminate the illusionary figures of the white tigers. Otherwise, he would seriously injure Duan Qing. However, following this, a shocking sight took place. It was as if Qin Nan's eyes were able to predict the movements of the white tigers, allowing him to weave through the illusionary figures of the white tigers like a phantom. In the end, with a kick, his figure landed 3 meters away. His clothes flapped wildly as he dodged the attacks with ease. This, Di Fengyun's face was filled with astonishment. Although his White Tiger deadly eyes only utilized the strength of the first-layer Martial Highness realm, it would not be a problem for him to kill an ordinary third-layer Martial Highness realm cultivator. Had Duan Qing dodged such a powerful attack with ease? How had he done it? Could it be? Di Fengyun immediately collected his thoughts. There was only one possibility. Duan Qing had used his eye technique to see through the movements of his attacks. Gasp! Di Fengyun inhaled deeply. Such a terrifying eye technique. Not only was it able to see through the illusionary figures, it was able to unleash powerful lightning to see through the movements of the attacks. Duan Qing was indeed extraordinary. Di Fengyun had a strong feeling that if he were to fight against Duan Qing with the same cultivation level, even if his cultivation was 1 to 3 layers higher than Duan Qing's, he would not stand a chance against him. Phew! Di Fengyun took a deep breath. In terms of martial skill talent, Duan Qing had even entered the 7th floor of the House of Gold. In terms of capabilities, Duan Qing was able to resurrect the blood-winged vermilion bird and the others. In terms of cultivation, Duan Qing was able to survive the attack of a half-martial Sacred Realm cultivator. In terms of eye technique, he was no match against Duan Qing either. Even though they both possessed 8th grade D-ranked martial spirits, there was still an insurmountable gap between him and Duan Qing. No wonder the spirit of the deceased emperor had chosen Duan Qing. Platoon leader, I'm utterly convinced. At that instant, Di Fengyun completely lowered his prideful head. Qin Nan let out a calm smile, and was about to speak when a rare occurrence took place all of a sudden. East, south, west, north. Zhou Bihua and the others uttered thunderous roars as their terrifying sacred force poured into the formation below them like an ocean. The 4 directions are the extremities, twisting the heavens and earth, concealing the secrets of the heavens and earth. The 4 experts spoke simultaneously. Chapter 6:19. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 621 Law-Defying Qibang. A terrifying glow instantly encapsulated the entire garden, which felt like a giant bowl that was placed upside down, encapsulating the garden's surroundings. Cotton, flower candy, little say. 79XS Qin Nan and Di Fingyun's faces were filled with astonishment. 4 martial sacred realm cultivators and countless crystals. Such a formation could easily resist a single attack from the martial ancestor. This is, Qin Nan soon collected his thoughts and unleashed his left eye. Although he was unable to peek through it, he was able to catch a glimpse of it. It felt like the aura of the garden had transformed into a separate space, completely isolated from the heavens and earth. Not enough. Keep going. The sky-scorching emperor suddenly uttered a roar as countless golden rays burst out from his body, as if he had executed some sort of forbidding aura, causing his strength to skyrocket. The blood-winged vermilion bird, the kingdom protector black tortoise, and Zhou Bihua executed their forbidden techniques simultaneously, causing their auras to skyrocket. Puff! The 4 experts spat out mouthfuls of blood, which splattered around the formation. Bang! The aura of the formation erupted like a volcano, one layer after another, each stronger than the previous one. It felt like a giant hand had descended from the sky, grabbing the garden from the Kanglan continent. Third Prince, the formation can only last for 10 breaths time. The 4 experts snapped at the same time. Their cultivations dropped rapidly as if they had lost all their strength. Their hair turned white rapidly, as if they had turned into old men who did not have long to live. Love go little say, the 4 experts were on the verge of death, just by executing the formation. Whoosh! The eyes of the third prince, who was at the center of the formation, sprang open all of a sudden, emitting a mystical glow. Almost all the books you want to read are available. It's more stable than ordinary websites, and the updates are faster too. There are no advertisements. Several golden rays were emitted from his back. There were a total of 6 golden rays, and within them, a folding fan that seemed to be made of metal floated in the air. This was the third prince's martial spirit, 6th grade D-ranked, Iron Fan Martial Spirit. Martial Spirit Self-Detonation. The third prince roared. Boom! The Iron Fan Martial Spirit behind him began to vibrate vigorously as cracks began to spread across its surface. A moment later, it exploded. Puff! The third prince's aura dropped to rock bottom in an instant. His face was pale and bloodless. He raised his head and coughed up a large amount of blood, destroying his own martial spirit and severely injuring his body. Defying the heavens and changing one's fate. At that instant, the white badge soared into the sky and turned into a ray of white light, before diving into the third prince's body. The aura of the deceased emperor immediately spread out from the third prince's body. It was the martial spirit of the deceased emperor, which was merging with the third prince. At this moment, 2 breaths had already passed. At that instant, a series of strange cries could be heard coming from the sky. Qin Nan felt an inexplicable chill run down his spine. He raised his head and saw numerous phantoms that looked like fiend gods holding scythes in their hands. Their eyes were scarlet red, and they seemed to be searching for something in all directions of the grand formation. Qin Nan's soul began to tremble. Ever since he had experienced the suppression of the left eye of the divine god of battle, he had never felt such a terrifying aura. Defying the heavens and changing one's fate. These phantoms most likely represent the heavens and earth. If they were to discover the person trying to defy the heavens and change one's fate, they would most likely attack right away. None of us here would be able to survive a single attack from them. Qin Nan collected his thoughts and withheld the trembling in his heart. His eyes glanced toward the third prince. Nan! Wu! Gate! How? The third prince performed a hand seal with bloodshot eyes. Each of his movements seemed to be extremely difficult. As he uttered the words, 4 breaths had passed. Only 4 breaths were left. A single word, a single breath's time. God! Heaven! Defy! As the final breath's time ran out, the formation that the 4 experts were trying their best to construct was shattered into pieces. The demonic godlike figures roaming in all directions seemed to have discovered something, and their blood-red eyes suddenly looked toward the third prince. A terrifying aura swept the place, as if everything in the heavens and earth, including the entire White Tiger City, were about to be destroyed. Whoosh! An explosion took place inside the third prince's body, as the aura of the deceased emperor vanished. His pale face recovered its redness. Howl, 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 a scorching gust of wind was emitted from deep within the rift, which encapsulated the figures like the giant hand of a giant beast and dragged them deep into the heavens and earth, causing them to disappear. The entire garden returned to silence. It's done. The 4 experts of the sky-scorching Emperor's group of 4 felt relieved after seeing this, as they fell to the ground and fainted. Master! Di Fengyun's expression changed tremendously after seeing this. He immediately went forward and took out several herbs to construct a formation to heal the 4 experts. He had come here today to heal the 4 experts. Duan Qing, take this stream of laudifying qi. The third prince suddenly glanced at Qin Nan and fired a stream of mysterious qi into Qin Nan's body. Following this, his face was filled with a hint of fatigue as he said, "The heaven-shrouding formation is not powerful enough, causing me to alter my destiny in advance. I'll be in a deep sleep for 3 years. I'll only wake up after 3 years. Wait for me." The third prince closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. He lay on the ground with no sign of life in his body. Only when he woke up would he be able to unleash his power. This is altering one's destiny. Qin Nan's heart shuddered upon seeing this. The heaven-shrouding formation that the 4 experts were trying their best to maintain could only last for 10 breaths' time. In addition to that, the third prince would need another 3 years to wake up after altering his destiny. Besides, if they had been half a breath's time slower, the entire White Tiger City would have been destroyed. Altering one's destiny. How difficult was that? If it were anyone else, even if they had acquired the spirit of the deceased emperor, the heavens and earth would be aware of it and eliminate them. Since I've acquired the divine battle spirit, it's the same as altering my destiny too. However, it was extremely easy for me to alter my destiny. It wasn't this difficult at all. Qin Nan took a deep breath. After observing the process of altering one's destiny, he was enlightened in his heart. Such a fortunate encounter was not easy to come by. He had to be worthy of the divine battle spirit and himself. Qin Nan's figure shuddered all of a sudden. Qin Nan's expression changed slightly as he quickly lowered his head. The stream of laudifying qi that the third prince had inserted into his body had undergone a shocking change. Chapter 620. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 622 Skyrocketing Cultivation. A shocking event. There were 2 kinds of forces inside Qin Nan's body, which were the law-defying primordial spirit and the 99 streams of the force of the martial highness realm. 79. The law-defying qi did not stop there after accumulating the force of the martial highness realm. It turned into a beast with its mouth wide open and devoured the human-shaped law-defying primordial spirit. Qin Nan was startled. The law-defying primordial spirit was the foundation for him to rank up to the law-defying martial highness realm. What exactly was this law-defying qi trying to do? Bang! At that instant, a shocking change took place. With the law-defying qi as the core, the law-defying primordial spirit and the force of the martial highness realm rapidly shrank from the size of a head, to the size of a fist, and finally to the size of a fingernail, turning into a crystal. The crystal had a mysterious aura, emitting a magical seven-colored glow, as if it possessed an inexhaustible force. Di Fengyun, who was helping the four martial sacred realm cultivators, raised his head and glanced at Qin Nan as if he was aware of something. Following a glimpse, his expression changed tremendously. At that instant, Qin Nan's aura was like that of an enraged beast, whose aura grew rapidly. Second layer, Martial Highness Realm. Third layer, Martial Highness Realm. Fourth layer, Martial Highness Realm. It finally came to a stop after reaching the fifth layer, Martial Highness Realm. His cultivation had risen from the first layer, Martial Highness Realm, to the fifth layer, Martial Highness Realm. Even Qin Nan was stunned for a moment, before he immediately inspected his body after collecting his thoughts. As he expected, the seven-colored crystal was emitting a ripple of force, which contained 599 streams of the force of the Martial Highness Realm. As everyone knew, a first-layer Martial Highness Realm cultivator would have 99 streams of the force of the Martial Highness Realm. A second-layer cultivator would have 199 streams. Each layer would increase the force by 100 streams. Qin Nan's cultivation was equivalent to a fifth-layer Martial Highness Realm cultivator. Wait, that's not all. Qin Nan suddenly sensed something strange. The reason for that was because he could sense a boundless potential within the rainbow crystal. This kind of potential was unfathomable. For example, if the 599 streams of the force of the Martial Highness Realm were a basin of water, the seven-colored crystal would be a giant water tank. Even if the basin was filled with water, it would not even fill 1/10 of the tank. I understand now. Heaven-defying Qi, gathering the heaven-defying primordial spirit, gathering the power of the supremacy to form this seven-colored crystal. This seven-colored crystal shall be called the Martial Highness Crystal. Once I fully fill up the Martial Highness Crystal with the force of the Martial Highness Realm, it will automatically become a law-defying Martial Highness. Qin Nan had a look of understanding on his face. Before that, he would need to undergo a terrifying tribulation to reach the law-defying Martial Dominator Realm. Currently, he was not interested in overcoming the tribulation. He only needed to accumulate the force of the Martial Highness Realm and insert it into the Martial Highness Crystal to achieve the law-defying Martial Highness Realm. The law-defying Martial Highness Realm would allow him to become a Martial Sacred Realm after overcoming the tribulation. This law-defying Qi is indeed terrifying. Qin Nan gradually calmed his thoughts and took a deep breath. If his guess was correct, this kind of heaven-defying Qi was probably a strand of heaven-defying Qi that was born when the third prince successfully changed his fate. That being said, the third prince had given him the precious law-defying Qi. Third prince, I'll be waiting for you to wake up in 3 years' time, so that we can stir a great chaos together. Qin Nan glanced at the unconscious third prince at the center of the crowd. The surrounding royal guards collected their thoughts and descended from the sky, bringing the third prince's figure away. These royal guards were the core members of the royal family, who were absolutely loyal to the sky-scorching emperor. They were here to hide the third prince in the safest place in the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. The reason being that the third prince's appearance in 3 years' time would change the future of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. This was extremely important. Platoon leader Di Fengyun stared at Qin Nan with his mouth open wide. The astonishment on his face had yet to dissipate. It was his first time witnessing a cultivator's cultivation leveling up by 4 layers in a row. Was the force that the third prince had unleashed this powerful? Di Fengyun, I'll leave the seniors in your care. Qin Nan said. Don't worry, Master and the others have already predicted this, thus they have prepared some measures to help them recover. Di Fengyun collected his thoughts and straightened his face. Sure. Qin Nan nodded his head. He took out the badge with the shape of a star as a sudden thought crossed his mind. The badge was known as the Hidden Dragon Badge, which was specifically used to check one's ranking on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Qin Nan waved his hand, and the ranking on the Hidden Dragon ranking remained at the 33rd rank. It seems like it will take some time for the Hidden Dragon ranking to change. Qin Nan nodded as his eyes flickered with a sharp look. The third prince had successfully altered his destiny and become a terrifying genius with a 10th grade D-ranked martial spirit. It was time for him to improve his martial spirit's rank. Besides, he still had the 3 million primary stones that Lin Fengshao had given him. I'll be leaving first. Qin Nan inserted the remaining chaos qi into the bodies of the blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise, before leaving the place with a kick. He no longer needed the help of the demon god's robe, nor did he need to teleport 3 times. He had arrived at the vermilion bird platoon in one trip. 5th layer Martial Highness Realm was incomparable to 1st layer Martial Highness Realm cultivators. Time to devour the primary stones. Qin Nan entered the cultivation hall and sat down with his legs crossed. He took out all the primary stones and devoured them instantly. 300,000, 800,000, 1 million, 2 million. When Qin Nan finished devouring the 3 million primary stones, the divine battle spirit showed no reaction. It only communicated with the mysterious ancient world in its mind and gave him 10,000 streams of chaos qi. As I thought, Qin Nan did not seem to be disappointed. He had only ranked up to the 8th grade D rank after devouring 4,500,000 primary stones. Following that, he had devoured 1,300,000 primary stones. Together with the 3 million primary stones he had devoured now, he now had a total of 4,300,000 primary stones. If he was not mistaken, the number of primary stones he had to pay to rank up to the 9th grade D rank was at least twice as much as the previous time. I've devoured 4,300,000 primary stones. I still need to devour at least 4,300,000 primary stones, or even more. It seems like I'll have to ask the authorities like the blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise to help me find the primary stones. Qin Nan made up his mind. If the others were to know that Qin Nan was asking the 2 godly beasts to help him find the primary stones, they would be dumbfounded. The 2 godly beasts were willing to help him find the primary stones despite their identities. However, at that instant, a sound-conducting talisman appeared in his storage bag. The talisman was left by Sima Kong, specifically used to communicate with others. Qin Nan was startled. Why was Sima Kong looking for him? Qin Nan took out the talisman and inspected it with his divine sense. Chapter 621. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a great novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 623. Bumping into 2 familiar faces, do something earth-shattering? Qin Nan was startled before his lips curled upward. Advertisement. That was fast. Sima Kong, the only man with 5 black lines on his forehead in the history of the Trading Alliance. His identity, background, and so on were all extremely extraordinary. For example, the mortal appearance-changing technique was the reason why Qin Nan and the others were able to change their identities in the upper district without being hunted down. I'm not sure what is going on. Send a message to Long Hu and tell him to head to the northern street. Qin Nan transmitted his voice and teleported to the northern street. The royal palace was located in the south, while the Trading Alliance was located in the north. These 2 great authorities each occupied half of White Tiger City, thus they both minded their own business. The northern street was filled with countless vendors and cultivators, resulting in a lively scene. The street belonged to the Trading Alliance, thus the vendors had to pay the Trading Alliance a certain amount of primary stones every month to be allowed to set up their stalls. Qin Nan glanced at the street before heading straight to the headquarters of the Trading Alliance. Qin Nan halted in his tracks. He had caught a glimpse of a familiar figure with the corner of his eye. After taking a closer look, he realized that the person was none other than Jiaozhe. Jiaozhe was once a genius of the lower district, who had come to the upper district and became the leader of the Trading Alliance's subdivision at the 9th city. Previously, it was Jiaozhe who exposed the Fan clan and the Ji clan's scheme against Qin Nan. Therefore, Qin Nan was quite impressed by Jiaozhe. Qin Nan subconsciously wanted to greet him, but his hands stiffened as he suddenly recalled that he was no longer Qin Nan, but Jiaozhe. Jiaozhe! Qin Nan shouted. Jiaozhe turned around and saw Qin Nan. He was slightly surprised and asked, "Who are you?" Although the people of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom were aware that Qin Nan had disguised himself as Duan Qing, they were unaware of Duan Qing's appearance. There are almost all the books you want to read. It's much more stable than the average website, and the updates are faster. It's all text without advertisements. I've met you once at the Trading Alliance of the 9th city. It's been a long time, so I'm afraid you don't remember me. Qin Nan brought his fists together. Is that so? Jiaozhe was slightly stunned. The young man in front of him was so extraordinary. If time had passed, he would have remembered him. Jiaozhe said apologetically, "Fellow Taoist, I'm really sorry. I have something to do right now. Wait a moment. I'll find a place where we can have a good chat. How about that?" Qin Nan let out a smile and nodded his head. Jiaozhe was still the same, righteous, polite, and humble. Jiaozhe turned around and said in a sincere tone, "Senior Divine Swordsman, I'm really interested in this sword. My name is Jiaozhe, and I'm the leader of the Trading Alliance's subdivision in the 9th city. I only have 70,000 primary stones with me now. If Senior is willing, I'm willing to owe you the rest of the primary stones. I'll pay you back double the amount in the future." Qin Nan was slightly startled after hearing the words, before he glanced at the stall owner. There were a few swords placed on the stall, each of them pitch black with an ancient aura. No wonder Jiaozhe was so interested in them that he was willing to pay them back. However, where had he heard the name Divine Swordsman before? No, if you don't have the primary stones, it means that you are not fated to own this sword. Leave now. An icy voice could be heard, which turned out to be the owner of the stall, the Divine Swordsman. Qin Nan raised his head and saw an old man sitting with his legs crossed. He was wearing a clean black robe. The old man had his eyes closed while his aura was calm. His back was straight, and his entire person was like a sword. Divine Swordsman, Qin Nan murmured in his heart, before a sudden thought came to him. Wasn't this Divine Swordsman the infamous Divine Swordsman of the lower district? Previously, when Qin Nan was still at Jianghuang City, he had used his left eye of the Divine God of Battle to find 3 treasures at the ancient gambling store. One of the treasures was a manual left by the Divine Swordsman. Qin Nan had used the manual to acquire the mortal appearance-changing technique from Sima Kong. Senior Divine Swordsman. Jiaozhe wore a wry smile as he glanced at the ancient sword with a hint of reluctance. He shook his head and let out a sigh. Senior Divine Swordsman is right. I guess I'm not fated to be with this sword. The Divine Swordsman's eyes were still closed. All of a sudden, Qin Nan let out a smile and said, "Cultivator Jiao, don't worry. I do believe that you are quite fated to be with this sword." Jiaozhe was slightly startled, as he did not expect this stranger to say such a thing all of a sudden. Jiaozhe collected his thoughts and blurted out, "Cultivator, this is Senior Divine Swordsman, we shouldn't disrespect him." "Fated? What do you mean?" The Divine Swordsman's eyes sprang open, which were like 2 giant swords being drawn out from their sheaths, emitting a terrifying glow. Qin Nan showed no sign of fear as he calmly said, "If I'm not mistaken, Senior is from the lower district." Before he left the lower district, he left behind a manual, which contained the knowledge he had learned throughout his life. "I happened to stumble into the manual by chance. On the surface there's nothing special about it, but if I were to burn it with fire, it would reveal its true form." Hearing this, the divine swordsman wore an astounded expression as he said, "You found the manual?" "Yes, I found it, but since I'm a saber user, I decided to exchange it with someone who's more suitable for it," Qin Nan said calmly. The divine swordsman was startled. Before he stared at Qin Nan, as if he were trying to find some clues from Qin Nan's expression. In the end, his cold face wore an indiscernible smile as he said, "What a surprise to stumble into two juniors from the lower district in the upper district. That's enough, Jiaozhe, right? You can take this sword. 70,000 primordial stones will do." "Senior, this..." Jiaozhe was startled, as he did not expect the situation to take such a drastic turn. "I, the divine swordsman, always keep my words." The divine swordsman waved his hand and tossed the sword to Jiaozhe. Jiaozhe held the sword with a blank expression, before a hint of surprise appeared on his face as he immediately took out the primary stones and expressed his gratitude. "Don't thank me, thank this young man instead." The divine swordsman waved his hand expressionlessly. He was only certain that the young man before him had acquired the manual. The reason being that even the masters of the trading alliance of the lower district were unable to decipher the secrets of the manual. The young man before him possessed an extraordinary aura, thus it was reasonable that he was able to decipher the secrets of the manual. "Fellow Taoist, many thanks." Jiaozhe turned around and thanked him solemnly. Qin Nan waved his hand. He was quite happy to be able to help someone he was familiar with. "Judging from your extraordinary aura, I believe you must be quite famous in the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, right?" the divine swordsman suddenly asked. "I'm Duan Qing, but I'm not that famous," Qin Nan said with a calm smile. Hearing this, the divine swordsman and Jiaozhe were stunned, before their faces were filled with astonishment. Duan Qing? This guy was the top genius with an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit, Duan Qing? How was this just a little bit of fame? It was like a thunderclap in their ears. "You're Duan Qing?" Jiaozhe collected his thoughts. His eyes flickered with a complicated expression. He was not stupid. Duan Qing's sudden rise had coincided with Qin Nan's disappearance. Was it really a coincidence? Duan Qing? At that instant, an imperious voice could be heard all of a sudden. Following this, the entire northern street was immersed in an uproar. Many of the vendors had expressions of astonishment on their faces. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Chapter 6:22. The genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 6:24. The genius has crossed swords. What day is it today? Why is the alliance leader here? Look at the young man beside him. His aura is as powerful as a dragon. If I'm not mistaken, he must be the genius of the trading alliance, Du Feng. What? The one on the hidden dragon ranking? Is he back from his cultivation? The entire northern street was immersed in discussions. For more information, visit www. These vendors all possessed extraordinary cultivation. Having been around for many years, it was only natural for them to have sharp eyes. With just a few words, they were able to clearly identify the two of them. Qin Nan frowned as he turned around. He could only see a bulky middle-aged man wearing a black robe. However, the robe was different from Qin Nan's demon god's robe, as it was mixed with a golden glow, as if it was going to burst out from the darkness, resulting in a terrifying suppression. Furthermore, the middle-aged man was wearing a white mask. Even with Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle, he could only see a golden glow. The middle-aged man was none other than the current leader of the trading alliance. In addition to that, there was a young man standing beside him. The young man's hair was disheveled, with a sinister grin on his face. His eyes were staring at Qin Nan, as if he was trying to peek through Qin Nan's figure with some sort of eye technique. Almost every book you want to read is available. It's more stable than the usual websites, and the updates are faster too. There are no advertisements. This man was the current genius of the Trading Alliance, Du Feng, who was ranked on the Hidden Dragon ranking. What a surprise to see the Alliance leader here. Qin Nan spoke in a calm tone. He did not have a good impression of this leader of the Trading Alliance. As for the Sword Highness and Jiao Zhe, they did not expect the leader of the Trading Alliance and Du Feng to show up after Duan Qing had shown up. The leader of the Trading Alliance gave Qin Nan a thoughtful look. Over the past few days, the royal family of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom had experienced a great change, resulting in a great commotion during the heaven-worshipping feast. Although the Tao-seeking mountain and the Wanxiang pavilion were unaware of the truth, he clearly knew that the reason why the Skyhowl White Tiger and Di Fengyun were defeated was because of Duan Qing. Even the resurrection of the two godly beasts was closely related to Duan Qing. On top of that, he had also heard that Duan Qing was the one who would decide who would own the artifact that the deceased emperor had left behind. Upon mentioning the treasure, the eyes of the leader of the Trading Alliance flickered coldly. Even though he was cooperating with the Skyhowl White Tiger, it did not tell him what it was. Furthermore, the pawns that the Trading Alliance had planted in the royal family of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom were all killed within an instant, leaving him with no chance to learn anything. Duan Qing? Du Feng withdrew his gaze and said with interest, "I heard that even Di Fengyun is inferior to you? You have some strength. You are now ranked 33rd on the Hidden Dragon roll. I didn't expect the sky-scorching ancient kingdom to have someone like you." Qin Nan glanced at him. This Du Feng possessed an 8th-grade D-ranked martial spirit and a cultivation of the 5th-layer martial highness realm. He even had a sacred weapon in his body. His strength was quite extraordinary, thus his ranking on the Hidden Dragon roll was quite high. The leader of the Trading Alliance glanced at Du Feng and transmitted his voice. Du Feng's eyes instantly flickered. "Duan Qing, you're quite famous. Since we've met each other today, why don't we use the Northern Street as the dueling ground and have a duel? I believe that you're not a coward." Du Feng's eyes were filled with a hint of provocation. The crowd of the Northern Street was stunned hearing this. This Du Feng was challenging Duan Qing to a duel? "I don't have the time now, let's do it next time." Qin Nan wore a calm expression. Sima Kong had a shocking plan, thus it was necessary for him to lend him a hand. He had already wasted a lot of time after encountering Jiao Zhe and the Sword Highness. If he were to duel with Du Feng now, Sima Kong would surely be bored waiting for him. No time. Du Feng was startled hearing this before he burst out laughing. "Ha ha, everyone has been talking about Duan Qing's strength, but this is all he's got. Stop trying to find such a lame excuse." Saying this, Du Feng's lips curled upward into a hideous grin. "If you don't accept the duel, Cultivator Jiao Zhe will lose his position as the leader of the Trading Alliance, and Cultivator Sword Highness will not be allowed to set foot in the Trading Alliance." Hearing this, the Sword Highness and Jiao Zhe were startled. This Du Feng was so shameless, trying to use them to threaten Duan Qing. "If you don't want to enter, then so be it. Stop trying to threaten me." The Divine Swordsman snapped coldly after hearing the words. "If the Trading Alliance is so unfair, I don't mind giving up my position as the leader of the Trading Alliance." Jiao Zhe wore a calm expression. Du Feng was startled. He did not expect these two to be so hot-tempered, not treating his words seriously at all. Even the leader of the Trading Alliance frowned his eyebrows under the mask. "Are you threatening me?" Qin Nan's expression turned cold. He hated it the most when someone tried to threaten him with his friends. Although it was his first time meeting the Sword Highness was also from the lower district, and his temper was quite similar to Qin Nan's. Thus Qin Nan was quite respectful toward the Sword Highness. Du Feng's actions had no doubt crossed Qin Nan's bottom line. No, no, no. Du Feng immediately shook his head and let out an evil grin under the crowd's gaze. I'm not threatening you. I'm just using my authority to bully those who are related to you. Du Feng was aware of what Duan Qing had done in the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, but did it matter? With his identity, there was no need for him to be afraid of Duan Qing. Not to mention that the alliance leader himself had given the order. Of course, as long as you win against me, I won't do anything to the two beside you. If you lose, you have to hand over the second prince's map to me. What do you think? Du Feng spoke quickly, unleashing his aura in an overbearing manner. The crowd immediately came to a realization. Du Feng was provoking Duan Qing to get his hands on the map. Duan Qing, you can't do that. This Du Feng is ranked 30th on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Don't be reckless. The Sword Highness and Jiao Zhe immediately transmitted their voices to Qin Nan. Du Feng was purposely provoking them to threaten Duan Qing. It was a conspiracy. If Duan Qing were to accept the challenge, he would fall into his trap. So you're after my map? Qin Nan let out a grin as if he did not hear their advice. He transmitted his voice to Sima Kong and said in a cold tone, "As you wish." Bang! A fifth-layer Martial Highness realm aura burst out from Qin Nan's body and swept the surroundings. What? Your cultivation has reached the fifth-layer Martial Highness realm? Du Feng's face turned pale. When the Hidden Dragon ranking was released 2 days ago, Duan Qing's cultivation was only at the first-layer Martial Highness realm, but he was still able to challenge a third-layer Martial Highness realm cultivator. To his surprise, Duan Qing's cultivation had improved so much in just 2 days. Do you think your cultivation of the fifth-layer Martial Highness realm is enough to defeat me? As expected of a genius on the Hidden Dragon ranking, Du Feng immediately collected his thoughts. The robe on his body danced wildly while emitting a colorful glow, which transformed into a set of armor covering his entire body. The aura of the fifth-layer Martial Highness realm was unleashed too. Clank! Following a buzz, an ancient saber emitting a tremendous saber intent was drawn out from the ground. Qin Nan stomped his foot on the ground and sprang into the air like an emperor. The ancient saber transformed into a phoenix as it slashed at Du Feng's head with a tremendous aura. Chapter 623. The Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 625. The Alliance Leader Intervenes. The crowd at the northern street was startled, as they did not expect Duan Qing to make his move. Quick update, refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please leave a good review. The faces of the divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe darkened at the same time, as their hearts rose to their throats. If Duan Qing were to be implicated because of them, resulting in a great loss, they would not be able to rest easy. In the blink of an eye, the two geniuses had engaged in a fierce battle. Trying to defeat me with a mere mystical weapon? Du Feng's eyes flickered with disdain as he waved his hand, causing a buzzing sound to take place. Following this, a series of golden glows could be seen, which turned out to be several golden wheels rising into the air. Each of the golden wheels was an emperor weapon, which formed a huge formation like the sun. Golden Dance Formation. Du Feng uttered a roar, causing the golden wheels to intertwine with one another, shattering Qin Nan's saber intent and aiming at Qin Nan. The trading alliance had the most artifacts, and the geniuses were the best at controlling artifacts. The golden wheels became extremely agile under Du Feng's control, as if they possessed a soul, which locked onto Qin Nan's figure and chased after him from all directions. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a glow as his figure moved rapidly like a phantom. No matter how hard the golden wheels tried to attack him, they could not harm him at all. Did he see through all of them? Du Feng's face turned pale as a sense of danger rose within his heart. With a thought, the golden wheels flew backward and formed a giant shield before him in the blink of an eye. Bang! Qin Nan's figure sprang forward like an arrow and slashed downward with his saber. The terrifying saber intent collided with the giant shield, resulting in a series of cracking noises. A moment later, the golden wheels were shattered into pieces. Quick update: refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website, please leave a good review. A single slash had defeated more than 10 Emperor weapons. So what if it's Qi? Even if it's just a wooden stick, it still depends on who's using it. Duan Qing die. Du Feng let out a furious roar. Countless black petals burst out from his body from the broken pieces of the golden wheel, which transformed into a giant mouth that bit at Qin Nan. I'm too lazy to waste my time with you. Suppress him. Qin Nan's eyes flickered coldly. Normally, he would be interested in a serious duel with the geniuses on the hidden dragon ranking. However, this Du Feng's Duan Qing. Whoosh. At that instant, a terrifying aura swept across the area. Qin Nan raised the ancient saber while accumulating the force of the phoenix soul-consuming fire, the sky thunder, the vermilion bird striking the heavens, etc., at the tip of the saber, causing it to vibrate vigorously as a shocking saber intent was emitted, which swept across the entire northern street like a beam of light. At that instant, the crowd held their breath. Even Du Feng's expression changed tremendously. If such a terrifying slash were to land, even he would be defeated without a doubt. Even if he were to activate the sacred weapon in his body, he would be severely injured. This Duan Qing's strength was too terrifying. Stop it! As soon as the slash was made, the leader of the trading alliance suddenly made his move. A strong sacred glow burst out like a huge river, devouring the saber intent of the slash. It shattered the rift and vanished into thin air. The leader's strength was immeasurable. Nice one, trading alliance. Qin Nan yelled. Everyone, you all saw it with your own eyes. This Du Feng was using my friend to threaten me. Who would have thought that the leader of the trading alliance would interfere at such a crucial moment? Trading alliance, don't you feel ashamed? Although the crowd did not dare to say anything after hearing the words, their gazes toward the leader of the trading alliance and Du Feng were filled with disdain. An expert participating in a duel between geniuses, what the hell was this? It would be a joke if this was made known to the public. The divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe wore cold looks too. Duan Qing, stop spouting nonsense. If it weren't for the fact that our battle had caused so much damage, the alliance leader would have intervened. Otherwise, do you think I'm afraid of you? Du Feng put on a strong front and yelled at him. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold as the ancient saber in his hand vibrated vigorously once again. Du Feng's expression changed slightly as he subconsciously took a step backward. It was obvious that the slash had left a lingering fear in his heart. Even though Qin Nan had taken the step backward, his instincts were telling him that he was in danger. Du Feng soon collected his thoughts. His face blushed. That small step back just now was really too embarrassing. I'm too lazy to waste my time with you. Qin Nan withdrew his ancient saber and nodded toward the divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe, before he turned around and prepared to leave. Wait! The leader of the trading alliance spoke all of a sudden. Qin Nan halted in his tracks and turned his head around as he heard the leader of the trading alliance speaking in a calm tone. Duan Qing, hand over the map in your hand. Otherwise, this divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe will be suppressed by the trading alliance. I'll deal with them myself. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. Wasn't Du Feng defeated? Even the divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe were startled. The leader of the trading alliance smilingly said after being aware of the crowd's confusion, "Please don't misunderstand, Du Feng was the one who had a duel with Duan Qing. His words only represent himself, not our trading alliance." The divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe were startled hearing this. Qin Nan's heart was engulfed in flames of fury. Who among the crowd did not know that Du Feng had dared to challenge him under the orders of the leader of the trading alliance? Besides, as a genius on the Hidden Dragon ranking, Du Feng possessed a great status in the trading alliance. His words basically represented the entire trading alliance. Even if the leader of the trading alliance had something to say, why didn't he say so earlier? It was obvious that this leader of the trading alliance was not going to give up until he achieved his goal. Trying to bully me with your authority? Qin Nan let out a hollow laugh. That's right. The leader of the trading alliance's voice was filled with ruthlessness. I can't touch you in front of the royal family, but here at the northern street, I'm the one who calls the shots. Duan Qing, give me the map and I'll give you whatever you want. Let's work together instead of fighting each other. The first half of his speech was imperious, while the latter half was giving Duan Qing a way out. This leader of the trading alliance was definitely one of the best when it came to word. Trying to bully me with your authority? You're the one who calls the shots, right? Qin Nan's expression became calm as he took out 2 badges without hesitation and said in a calm tone, the others might be afraid of you, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. If you want to play, I don't mind asking the seniors to play along with you. As soon as the 2 badges appeared, everyone present was shocked. The Vermilion Bird Sacred Badge. The Xuanwu Sacred Badge. Once activated, everyone from the Vermilion Bird Platoon and the Black Tortoise Platoon had to be present. They had to lend him their full support. Did that mean that Duan Qing had really saved the blood-winged Vermilion Bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise? Chapter 624. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 626. The Successor of the Emperor of Thieves, Sima Kong Hehe. Why are you so angry over such a trivial matter? The leader of the trading alliance let out a soft laugh and broke the silence. I was only joking with you. Don't take it to heart. Du Feng, let's go. Advertisement. -79XS. After saying this, the leader of the trading alliance left the scene. As he was wearing a mask, no one could see his expression. The cultivators on the northern street finally collected their thoughts after the 2 disappeared from their sight. Their gazes toward Qin Nan were filled with astonishment. How impressive! This Duan Qing was indeed impressive. Even the leader of the trading alliance was forced to back off, not daring to stir up any trouble. As for the joke? How could he be so serious? Phew, the divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe let out relieved sighs. It would be troublesome if they were the reason for the incident. Phew, to their surprise, Qin Nan let out a sigh of relief too. Being aware of their doubts, Qin Nan let out a cough and transmitted his voice to them. I was only trying to scare him. Even with the 2 badges, the 2 godly beasts would not be able to come here. That's right, Qin Nan was only trying to gain the upper hand by striking first. The reason being that the 4 experts had expended too much energy to execute the formation, thus they were still recovering. Even if Qin Nan had activated the badges, the 4 experts would not be able to make it here. I see. The divine swordsman and Jiao Zhe nodded their heads in silence, feeling even more impressed. Being able to remain calm and collected in front of the leader of the trading alliance, ordinary geniuses would not have the courage to do so. However, it's impossible for you 2 to stay at the trading alliance any longer. Qin Nan spoke in a calm tone. Read the full article. There's no need for the trading alliance to stay in this place. The venerable swordsman looked indifferent. He glanced at Jiao Zhe and said, I need a sword boy to accompany me on my travels in the East Continent. Jiao Zhe was slightly taken aback, but his expression immediately turned joyful. He cupped his hands and said, This disciple is willing. The revered sword nodded his head in satisfaction. He then looked at Qin Nan and clasped his hands together. Let us meet again, if fate allows. Let's meet again. Qin Nan did not say anything further. Although he could arrange for them to join the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, everyone had their own choices. They had to choose their own path. After separating from the two, Qin Nan quickly moved forward to meet up with Sima Kong. While walking along the northern street, his eyes glimpsed at the Trading Alliance's website. The entire northern street of White Tiger City belonged to the Trading Alliance, which was filled with over 30 palaces. Each of the palaces was not magnificent, but if one were to glance down from above, they would feel an imperious aura of a city within a city. Each of the palaces had its own uses. Some were used for auctions, some were used for trading, some were used to store treasures, etc. What's that? Qin Nan's eyes flickered with excitement. A distance away in the sky, an eye the size of a water jar could be faintly seen glancing downward, as if it was observing the entire northern street. According to the rumors, the headquarters of the Trading Alliance has a few core palaces that are specifically used to store treasures. If I'm not mistaken, this eye is most likely used to spy on the core palaces. Even if one were to turn invisible, burrow into the ground, or use any other techniques, the eye would still be able to see through their movements. Qin Nan mumbled to himself. Following this, he arrived at an alley in the middle of the northern street. He followed the instructions given by Sima Kong and entered a residence. As soon as he entered, Long Hu's grumbling voice could be heard. "Why did you take so long? Cut the crap, Qin Nan, come in at once. Don't let the sky eye see you," Sima Kong said calmly while standing at the side. Qin Nan immediately entered the residence and glanced at Sima Kong. Sima Kong was different today. He had regained his true appearance and was wearing a white robe that emitted a brilliant glow, giving him a dignified appearance and an extraordinary aura. "Hee kid, can you tell us what's going on now? If I'm not satisfied with your answer, your Grandpa Long will surely teach you a lesson today." Long Hu wore a cold grin. Before receiving the message, he was still having fun with his junior sister. "Qin Nan, you should know that the treasures of the Trading Alliance are hidden in the palaces, right?" Sima Kong ignored Long Hu's question and glanced at Qin Nan. "Yes." Qin Nan nodded his head with a confused look. Why was Sima Kong asking about that? Could it be? As expected, Sima Kong's eyes flickered as he said, "Today, the three of us are going to do something shocking. We're going to rob those palaces." Hearing this, Qin Nan and Long Hu were astounded and took deep breath. This Sima Kong was planning to rob the treasure vault of the Trading Alliance? That was one of the four great factions. The treasure vault of the Trading Alliance was surrounded by countless traps and experts. Wasn't it the same as committing suicide for three Martial Highness realm experts to enter the vault? You're planning to rob the Trading Alliance? Are you out of your king mind? If you want to die, we won't be accompanying you. Long Hu snapped furiously after collecting his thoughts. In the eastern continent, there were countless infamous thieves who had tried to rob the Trading Alliance. In the end, all of them ended up with their limbs broken and dantians crippled. This was the headquarters of the Trading Alliance, which was guarded by martial Sacred Realm experts, unlike the Trading Alliance in the lower district. However, before Long Hu could finish, he was interrupted. Sima Kong's aura changed tremendously, which was now accompanied by a hint of a monarch's aura. A golden seal slowly appeared on his forehead, which was extremely eye-catching. As soon as the golden seal appeared, Long Hu's face was filled with astonishment. "Is this the Emperor of Thieves' seal? You're the successor of the Emperor of Thieves? The Emperor of Thieves? The Emperor Wu who specialized in stealing?" Qin Nan was startled, before he finally realized why Sima Kong was the first person in the history of the Trading Alliance to have 5 black lines. If he wasn't mistaken, this guy had stolen countless treasures from the subguilds. Long Hu collected his thoughts and said with an unpleasant expression, "So what if you're the successor of the Emperor of Thieves? Damn it, those people are all martial sacred realm experts. I'm not going crazy with you. Sima Kong remained silent. He glanced at Qin Nan and asked, Are you going to do it or not? Well, it's not a good idea to rob others. Qin Nan was reluctant to do so. However, he suddenly recalled that the divine battle spirit would require a huge amount of primary stones to rank up. Besides, wasn't the trading alliance his enemy? Once he was strong enough and regained his appearance, he would definitely declare war against the trading alliance. What's wrong with robbing the things of your mortal enemies and causing them to suffer a great loss of vitality? Let's do it. Chapter 625. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 627. Extraordinary Methods. Great. Sima Kong was overjoyed. With Qin Nan's help, their plan would surely succeed. A love go little say W. Chu 79XS. Hey Qin Nan, stop messing around this. Long Hu wore a blank expression. Why the F***K are these two crazy? Long Hu, those palaces are filled with valuable treasures. Are you sure you don't want to go? Sima Kong glanced at him. Long Hu was slightly startled. He could not help but imagine a scene in his mind, a spacious palace filled with treasures piled up into mountains. Each of them was extremely valuable. Unknowingly, he began to drool. If he could rob them successfully, he would be rich. Damn it, we're brothers after all. How can I not do it when you're looking for me? Long Hu made up his mind. Put these on for me. Sima Kong rolled his eyes and waved his hand, causing over 10 glowing robes and armors to fly out, leaving Long Hu with a blank expression. Why did he need so many defensive items? What's your plan? Qin Nan asked. Sima Kong was not a reckless person. If he dared to make a move, it meant that he had absolute confidence in his plan. I've been staying at the Trading Alliance for a few months. I've already investigated the place thoroughly. Sima Kong let out a chuckle as the previous sharp aura disappeared. The defenses of the Trading Alliance are extremely tight, with the Heaven's Eyes keeping an eye on the surroundings. There are also various experts guarding the place, as well as various traps and forbidding formations. I can handle everything else, but I'll leave the formations and forbidding auras to you. This was the reason why Sima Kong had asked for Qin Nan's help. Love go little say, W. Chu Qin Nan's eye technique was able to peek through illusions, thus it was not a problem for him to break the forbidding auras. No problem. Qin Nan nodded. Let's set off now. The golden seal on Sima Kong's forehead suddenly emitted a brilliant glow, firing 2 mysterious golden rays into Qin Nan and Long Hu's bodies. Full text reading at that instant, it was as if Qin Nan and Long Hu's auras had completely vanished from the world. Even the strongest divine sense was unable to detect their presence. What a marvelous Emperor of Thieves' seal! Qin Nan was secretly shocked. Do you too have invisibility talismans? Sima Kong asked. Just erasing his aura was far from enough. He had to make sure that his figure would vanish completely. Qin Nan shook his head as a sudden thought crossed his mind. He tried using the force of the Martial Highness realm to activate the Demon God's robe. The Demon God's robe did not let him down. It emitted a series of transparent ripples that encapsulated Qin Nan's figure. Qin Nan's figure turned transparent as he completely concealed himself. Demon God's robe? You've acquired such a treasure. Sima Kong's eyes flickered with envy. Even he was jealous of this Qin Nan's luck. It's nothing to be proud of. Long Hu wore a disdainful look as he concealed himself with a flicker. However, he was using an ancient martial art of the dragon tribe that specialized in concealment. Its effect was on par with the Demon God's robe. Let's go, don't let anyone see us. Sima Kong reminded as the Emperor of Thieves' seal on his forehead emitted a golden glow, causing his figure to vanish into thin air. Following this, the trio headed to the Trading Alliance. The entire northern street was crowded with people, resulting in a lively scene. It was as if the trio had vanished into thin air. Even peak Martial Highness realm experts would not be able to detect their presence when they passed by. The Trading Alliance has 8 palaces, each containing countless treasures. We're heading to the third palace. Outside the third palace, there are 10 peak Martial Highness realm experts cultivating in seclusion. Although they are cultivating in seclusion, their divine sense is constantly covering the third palace. Furthermore, at the center of the palaces, there is a supreme elder of the Trading Alliance cultivating in seclusion. Sima Kong explained as they proceeded forward. There will be a lot of traps, so you must follow my footstep. Don't touch anything, even if it's just a blade of grass or a petal of a flower. These were the words that Sima Kong had told Longhu, causing Longhu to clench his teeth, as if he was not reliable at all. We're here. The trio passed by the palaces of the Trading Alliance and arrived at a residence. The residence covered an area with a circumference of 30 li. The residence was planted with various kinds of strange flowers and woods, resulting in a pleasant smell. At the center of the residence was a pond, giving it a peaceful appearance. At the back of the residence were 8 paths that led to 8 different palaces. Qin Nan was startled after taking a glimpse with his left eye of the divine god of battle. How was this a peaceful courtyard? All kinds of traps, ancient martial skills, and dangerous traps were hidden in the residence. If they were triggered, even a martial sacred realm expert would not be able to escape from the calamity. Not to mention, there was a heaven eye above the residence that was constantly scanning the place. Even the slightest movement would alert the Trading Alliance, which would lead to the arrival of the leader, vice leader, and the rest of the martial sacred realm experts, resulting in a great commotion. There was no way they could escape from the calamity. Follow me closely. Sima Kong transmitted his voice to the duo. Qin Nan immediately observed Sima Kong's aura with his left eye of the divine god of battle. At that instant, he was no longer the fat man who was munching on the drumstick of a chicken, but a peerless thief who was everywhere. Sima Kong took a step forward and walked toward the residence. His hands were emitting a faint golden glow. Despite his speed, he did not make any noise as he skillfully dismantled the traps in the residence. The successor of the Emperor of Thieves was truly outstanding. Qin Nan and Longhu followed closely behind. A while later, their figures arrived at the back of the residence. They were only a few steps away from leaving the residence. Qin Nan. Sima Kong let out a groan. Qin Nan's eyes glistened as his left eye peeked through the formations. Left 3, right 4, front 5. Qin Nan's figure moved like a puff of smoke as he moved freely among the formations. In just a few breaths' time, he had passed through the formations that were capable of destroying a peak Martial Highness realm expert without triggering any of the trap. Sima Kong, I'm afraid the Trading Alliance will be aware that you've disabled all the traps, right? Qin Nan transmitted his voice to Sima Kong. Qin Nan, I might not be as strong as you, but I'm afraid no one in the Eastern continent is comparable to me when it comes to stealing. Sima Kong wore a prideful look. Qin Nan turned his head around and was stunned. The traps that had been disabled had all been repaired. No wonder no one was aware of their presence. We've arrived at the entrance of the third palace. Longhu wore an excited expression. Earlier, they had broken through the grand formation and walked out of the courtyard. They had already arrived at the entrance of the grand hall. As long as they pushed open the entrance, they would be able to see the boundless treasures. Qin Nan's eyes glistened as he scanned the place. The entrance of the third palace was exactly the same as the core palace of the Black Tortoise platoon. The entrance itself was an artifact. Without a key or a familiar aura, anyone who touched it would be killed by the entrance. Sima Kong glared at Longhu as he spat out a faint white breath into the entrance. Qin Nan immediately saw the white breath penetrating the formation of the entrance like an icy mist, preventing it from being activated. Piercing technique. Sima Kong waved his hand, causing a magical force to encapsulate Qin Nan and Long Hu's figure, allowing them to pass through the door without any hindrance, without causing any disturbance. "We're in." Long Hu became even more excited. Qin Nan was slightly overjoyed too, but he swiftly reacted and scanned his surroundings with his left eye of the divine god of battle. His expression immediately changed when he looked at them. He could only see an old man sitting with his legs crossed deep inside the third palace. Every breath he took was filled with a powerful force. He was a peak martial highness realm expert. Chapter 626. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 628. While the conspiracy is underway. Blue sky formation. The Emperor of Thieves' seal on Sima Kong's forehead suddenly emitted rays of golden light. Each ray of golden light was silent and did not emit any energy. They were like giant serpents, and in the blink of an eye, they formed a formation that enveloped all the treasures within 5 miles of the third hall. Love go little say, W. Chu. Read the full article. That was fast. At that instant it was as if the inside and outside of the formation had become 2 different worlds. The formation can only last for half the period it takes an incense to burn. Let's make our move. Sima Kong transmitted his voice. But the formation is transparent. Long Hu's voice trembled. If the old man who was cultivating in seclusion deep inside the palace opened his eyes, he would be able to discover their presence. Why would he open his eyes when he's cultivating in seclusion? Qin Nan snapped. Time was running out, thus he immediately scanned the third palace. The third hall covered an area with a circumference of 100 li. Various artifacts were hanging in the hall, each emitting a powerful force. There were too many to count. At a rough glance, there were at least tens of thousands of them. Their formation covered an area with a circumference of 5 li, and there were only a few thousand artifacts within that area. F***Kmi. Even Qin Nan could not help but curse. This trading alliance was F***King rich. If it weren't for the old man deep inside the palace, he would have the urge to loot the entire place. We can only grab the artifacts within the formation. Each artifact is protected by a special forbidding aura. If we try to grab the others, it will result in a backlash. Besides, try to grab the smaller ones. Sima Kong said. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization. The storage bag only had so much space, thus the number of artifacts it could store was limited. It was better to grab the smaller ones. As for the reason why the trading alliance had used the 8 palaces to store the artifacts, it was because the artifacts belonged to the entire trading alliance instead of an individual. No matter who was in charge of the treasure, the others would not be at ease. Of course, the reason why Sima Kong chose to attack the third palace was because the treasures in the third palace were smaller in size and he could bring more of them out. Schwa. With the protection of the formation, there was no need for him to worry. Sima Kong made his move at lightning speed, summoning hundreds of illusionary figures, which landed on each of the artifacts in the formation at lightning speed, causing the first layer of forbidding aura to be destroyed. Voila! Sima Kong spat out a mouthful of flames, which encapsulated all the artifacts. Boom! 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 At that instant, the second layer of forbidding auras on all the artifacts exploded, which transformed into terrifying attacks that surged toward Sima Kong's figure like a giant torrent. Long Hu! Sima Kong let out a roar and reached out his hand, grabbing the stunned Long Hu and placing him in front of him. Sima Kong, screw you. Long Hu's face turned pale as he collected his thoughts. He finally realized why Sima Kong had asked him to wear so many defensive mystical weapons. It turned out that he was using him as a shield. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place as the defensive artifacts on Longhu's body were shattered into pieces. In the end, his body was scorched black, as if it was being roasted by fire. Luckily, Longhu's flesh was sturdy due to his outstanding flesh. Otherwise, he would have been killed by the attacks. Screw you! Longhu's eyes were filled with anger. Qin Nan's heart skipped a beat upon seeing this. Even though he could easily resist the attacks of the artifacts, the impact would most likely cause the Emerald Sky formation to explode. He could only use Longhu as a shield to resist the attacks without affecting the operation of the formation. Hee brother, well done. Qin Nan, let's pick the artifacts. Sima Kong glanced at Qin Nan. The two mercilessly abandoned Longhu and focused on selecting the artifact. After all, everyone had different needs among the thousands of artifacts. Damn it! Upon seeing this, Longhu sprang into the air with a sudden burst of strength. He immediately looted the treasures like a hungry wolf and shoved them into his storage bag. TSK, such tiny emperor weapons and talismans. This trading alliance is so king rich. Qin Nan could not help but curse as his eyes scanned the place. Among the thousands of artifacts, there were a few hundred emperor weapons. Judging from this, there were at least over 1,000 emperor weapons in the third palace. That was not including the other 7 palaces. This robbery is quite interesting, Lin Feng said with a smile. Qin Nan glanced at the old man deep inside the hall. The old man's eyes were still closed as he cultivated. It went without saying that the old man would never expect 3 daring thieves to rob right under his nose. That being said, even Qin Nan was terrified to see such a blatant robbery. If the old man were to discover it, it would be the end for him. Hurry up and take the artifacts. Qin Nan swiftly reached out his hand and collected all the emperor weapons capable of burrowing into his storage bag. In the blink of an eye, he had collected over 30 artifacts. Qin Nan's eyes widened all of a sudden as he saw several metallic balls the size of a human head lying on the ground. Inside the metallic balls was a powerful force of thunder, which could cause even a first-layer Martial Highness Realm cultivator to tremble in fear if it were to be unleashed. There were a few hundred of these balls stacked together. Qin Nan, these are thunderous orbs. A single thunderous orb is enough to knock a first-layer Martial Highness Realm expert backward. Although the strength of the thunderous orbs is quite weak, if 100 of them were to be used at the same time, the power would be incredible. Even a peak Martial Highness Realm expert would tremble in fear. Repelling the enemy and killing the enemy. This is incredible. Sima Kong wore a perverted expression as if he was imagining a scene. Interesting, I'll take them. Qin Nan proceeded to collect all the thunderous orbs, as they might come in handy in the future. Meanwhile, the 3 daring guys were robbing the thousands of artifacts. Some of the artifacts were useful to all of them, thus they had to draw lots to decide which ones to take. As for the old man deep inside the palace, he frowned in the midst of his cultivation. For some reason, his cultivation today was not as smooth as usual. Meanwhile, at the main hall of the Trading Alliance. Among the palaces on the northern street, ordinary people were not allowed to enter the main hall, unless they were peak Martial Highness Realm experts or famous geniuses on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Inside the main hall, in the conference hall, there was a huge colorful round table made of crystal. Around the round table, people were seated. Everyone was seated. If Qin Nan were here, he would be dumbfounded. The reason being that these people were the vice leaders, the supreme elders, and the elders who had assisted the Skyhowl White Tiger at the heaven-worshipping ground. Each of them was considered a great authority in the Trading Alliance. On top of that, at the head of the table sat the leader of the Trading Alliance. 3 Martial Sacred Realm experts and peak Martial Highness Realm experts were gathered at the same table. Duan Qing's strength is extraordinary. He has yet to display his true strength when I fought him. If I'm not mistaken, he should be ranked 28th on the Hidden Dragon ranking." Du Feng glanced at the authorities with an unpleasant expression as he spoke. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of all the leaders present turned serious. 28th rank. In just a few days, he had risen from the 33rd rank to the 28th rank. Wasn't this Duan Qing a bit too terrifying? I've gathered everyone here today to discuss how we should deal with Duan Qing. That being said, we'll need to adjust our plan to capture Qin Nan too. The leader of the Trading Alliance slowly spoke. The meeting had officially begun. Chapter 627. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 629. Explosive Flame Talisman. Meanwhile, in the third hall. For more information, visit www. Impressive, impressive, impressive. Longhu's face blushed with excitement as he held a shawl made of the Ice Emperor silk in his hand. This Emperor weapon had come at the right time, as he happened to be interested in another junior sister. Would she reject his offer if he gave it to her? If he were to recruit one more, he would have 2 junior sisters. Although Qin Nan and Sima Kong were not as excited as Longhu, their hearts were filled with excitement too. How could they not be happy when looting the treasures as if they were picking them up for free? So many Emperor weapons, and some other rare artifacts, including the Thunder Orb. What a great haul, Qin Nan mumbled to himself as his eyes flickered. In less than half the period it took an incense to burn, over 1,000 treasures were distributed. Longhu stared at Sima Kong with his eyes wide open. He could only rely on this young man's capabilities to loot more treasures. We can't go any further in the third hall. The experts of the Trading Alliance have all practiced some ancient martial arts, thus their instincts are very sharp. If we stay here for too long, they will be able to sense our presence. We can only loot the 6th and 7th halls at most. Sima Kong said. Qin Nan nodded. Intuition was a very mysterious thing. For example, a person who had killed for a long time would be extremely sensitive to killing intent. Another example was that he had cultivated the Sleeping Buddha style, so his intuition was very sensitive. Some things that experts couldn't detect, he could detect. Love go little say, Qin Nan glanced at the old man who was cultivating in the third hall. As he expected, the old man's eyebrows were frowned. Let's go, we shouldn't waste any more time. Qin Nan swiftly said. Sima Kong and Longhu nodded. The 3 quietly withdrew from the third hall. The Jade Heavens formation and the white mist within the door had all returned to normal. The only thing missing was over 1,000 treasures. The furrowed brows of the old man in the third treasure hall slowly relaxed. Soon, the 3 of them used the same method to enter the 6th treasure vault. Treasure Palace number 6 was different from Treasure Palace number 3. Most of the treasures inside were talismans, array discs, and the like. The expert cultivating in Treasure Palace number 6 was also a bald middle-aged man. His breathing was like thunder, and lightning flashed on his closed eyelids. Jade Heavens formation. Sima Kong did the same thing as before, activating the formation to remove the first layer of forbidding aura from the artifacts. He then spat out flames, waiting for the artifacts to unleash their attacks. Longhu subconsciously slipped behind Qin Nan, but to his surprise, Qin Nan was aware of his unusual behavior. He grabbed Longhu and tossed him toward Qin Nan. Following this, a cry could be heard coming from the formation. Qin Nan, my ass! Meanwhile, in the conference hall of the Trading Alliance. Let's talk about Qin Nan first. The leader of the Trading Alliance scanned his surroundings. Even though he was wearing a mask, the crowd could still sense his gaze as he spoke in a calm tone. Qin Nan is extremely unpredictable. It's highly possible that he has acquired some sort of trick to be able to reach the upper district. It's quite difficult for us to track him down. We only need to send out our shadows. The rest of the people can withdraw. The crowd nodded their heads upon hearing this. Qin Nan had appeared twice, and the 4 great factions had failed to capture him despite sending out all their forces. This served as an indication of how powerful Qin Nan was. He was able to manipulate the 4 great factions with a mere 6th grade D-ranked martial spirit. Even the martial Sacred Realm experts were secretly impressed. That being said, if they were able to capture Qin Nan, they would surely crush his bones and scatter his ashes. Let's talk about Duan Qing. This guy has suddenly shown himself. He once fought with Qin Nan at the 9th city, before joining the Vermilion Bird platoon. It's now confirmed that he was the one who resurrected the blood-winged Vermilion Bird and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise. It's highly possible that this guy possesses some incredible secret. That's only one of the reasons. Secondly, according to the information we've obtained at the Heaven-worshipping feast, this guy possesses some extraordinary secret. Thirdly, the 4 great experts have suddenly disappeared, including the Crown Prince. According to our spies, Duan Qing had entered the palace on the night of his disappearance. It's highly possible that he knows something about it. According to our analysis, it's related to the treasure of the deceased emperor. The voice of the leader of the trading alliance sharpened, especially the map. Qin Nan has acquired the heaven-shrouding herb, leaving us with 2 stalks of herbs. If Duan Qing were to take the map, our trading alliance would have no chance to establish a relationship with the Mu clan. The expressions of all the experts present turned cold at the same time. The map was extremely important. In other words, we must get our hands on Duan Qing's secrets, the secrets he knows, and the map. From what I can tell, he will surely head to the disordered blood ocean. What do you guys think we should send to deal with him? The leader of the trading alliance calmed his tone and asked in a slow tone. On the other hand, Du Feng's expression became even more unpleasant. Why was there such a huge difference between the geniuses with 8th grade D-ranked martial spirits? Apart from Qin Nan, it was his first time seeing the experts of the Trading Alliance discussing a plan to deal with a mere 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit. I think we should send the 3 stars. It shouldn't be a problem for the 3 stars to deal with Duan Qing. Duan Qing is protected by the experts of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. It's impossible for us to use brute force. We can only send the 3 stars to deal with him. Geniuses against geniuses, it's a battle between 2 geniuses. The experts nodded their heads. The 3 stars were quite famous among the disciples of the Trading Alliance. There was not 1 3 stars but 3 of them. Du Feng was one of the 3 stars. However, Du Feng was ranked at the bottom among the 3 stars. The other 2 possessed cultivations that were stronger than Du Feng's. Most importantly, if the 3 of them were to work together, they would be able to retreat safely and even gain the upper hand against a genius ranked in the top 15 of the Hidden Dragon ranking. The 3 stars, huh? The leader of the Trading Alliance suddenly said, I've got a plan. What do you all think? Let's see if Zhu Heng is involved. Hearing this, the experts at the scene were startled. Why would Zhu Heng need to deal with a mere Duan Qing? As the experts of the Trading Alliance were discussing how to deal with Duan Qing in the 6th treasure vault. Holy crap, the silent talisman, the lifelong love talisman, the undying loyalty talisman. Long Hu's eyes flickered as his heart skipped a beat. These talismans were extremely precious to him. Qin Nan and Sima Kong wore dark expressions. What was this guy thinking? Qin Nan shook his head and glanced at the talismans. Talismans and discs were similar to artifacts. Most of them could only be used once, while some could be used twice. These talismans were classified similarly to artifacts, which were mystical talismans, emperor talismans, sacred talismans, monarch talismans, etc. They had various abilities, but they were not too different from artifacts. However, talismans were sometimes more useful than artifacts. Qin Nan suddenly saw several talismans with the size of 3 palms spread out in all directions. Each talisman was painted with twisted crimson runes, which felt like they were on fire. As soon as he took a closer look, he could feel a scorching heat coming from them. There were 100 of these talismans, each of which was an emperor talisman, comparable to an emperor weapon. These are the explosive raging flame talismans, similar to the thunderbolt orb. Qin Nan, you should take them. Using them together with the thunderbolt orb would surely produce a shocking effect. Sima Kong said with a grin. I've got the Phoenix soul-consuming fire too, which would make the talismans even more powerful. Qin Nan took all of the talismans. There were more than 300 Emperor talismans and discs within 5 li of the formation in the 6th palace. It was fair for him to take 100 of them at once. Following this, the trio proceeded to loot over 1,000 talismans and formation discs before heading to the 7th hall. Chapter 628. A Genius Will Remember Love in a Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 630. Startling the Trading Alliance. This 7th hall contains all kinds of pills and medicines. It's much more valuable than the previous 2 halls. While saying this, Sima Kong followed the same pattern and entered the 7th treasure vault. Deep inside the vault, a middle-aged man with long hair sat with his legs crossed, cultivating in seclusion. Accessed. Qin Nan scanned his surroundings and his eyes flickered. The entire hall was filled with all kinds of jade bottles. Inside the jade bottles were pills, and each pill had a powerful aura. They had all kinds of effects, such as healing, poisoning, strengthening, etc. There were too many of them to count. It was a dazzling sight to behold. As soon as Sima Kong's great formation was activated, he immediately began to select the pills. Meanwhile, in the conference hall of the Trading Alliance, being aware of the crowd's gaze, the leader of the Trading Alliance let out a chuckle and said, "Everyone, I'm not sure what trump card this Duan Qing has. The 3 stars and Zhu Hang will be involved too." Hearing this, the hearts of the experts shuddered. Zhu Hang was ranked 13th on the Hidden Dragon ranking, with a 9th grade D ranked martial spirit and a cultivation of the peak martial highness realm. He was ranked 2nd among the geniuses of the Trading Alliance. Normally, a genius like Zhu Hang would not be involved in a battle for no reason. However, the leader of the Trading Alliance had sent both Zhu Hang and the 3 stars to deal with Duan Qing. Furthermore, the Trading Alliance should contact the Wanxiang Pavilion and the Dao-Seeking Mountain, especially the Dao-Seeking Mountain. The relationship between the Dao-Seeking Mountain and the sky-scorching ancient kingdom is quite bad. When the time comes, we'll promise them some benefits and ask them to deal with Duan Qing at the same time. The voice of the leader of the Trading Alliance turned icy all of a sudden. The entire palace felt like it was in the middle of winter. At that instant, the experts at the scene were astounded. They finally realized how determined the leader of the Trading Alliance was to kill Duan Qing. Zhu Hang, the 3 stars, and the geniuses of the Wanxiang Pavilion and the Dao-Seeking Mountain. There was no way this Duan Qing could escape from the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe. At this moment, in the 7th treasure vault, detoxification pills, demonization pills, poison pills. As Qin Nan held the elixir in his hand, his heart couldn't help but race. He was not very interested in magical treasures, but these pills could be useful at critical moments. Even if they were to exchange it for primordial stones, it would still be easier to sell than a transcendent artifact. After all, there was a limit to the number of magical treasures a person could activate. These pills could save lives at critical moments. It didn't take long for all of the pills to be collected. Awesome! Qin Nan couldn't help but ask. Robbing, especially robbing one's enemies, gave one a great sense of satisfaction. It was quite interesting to imagine the reaction of the leader of the trading alliance and the others when they discovered the truth. Let's go. He's about to wake up. Sima Kong's voice tightened. Qin Nan glanced at him. As expected, the long-haired middle-aged man's aura began to fluctuate and become disorderly. Let's go. Qin Nan nodded his head and prepared to leave the place. However, as he took a step forward, his lips curled upward as a sudden thought crossed his mind. Qin Nan took out a piece of paper and wrote a few words on it, before leaving the place following Sima Kong's instructions. Like ghosts, the three of them quickly left the treasure vault number 7, stepped out of the courtyard, and quickly left the North Street. Meanwhile, in the 7th treasure vault, whoosh! The eyes of the long-haired middle-aged man sprang open all of a sudden, as the terrifying aura of the peak Martial Highness realm swept the surroundings like a storm. Damn it, what just happened? I almost sensed the secrets of the martial sacred realm. The long-haired middle-aged man cursed with an unpleasant expression. His name was Du Qishi, an elder of the trading alliance. However, a while ago, he had raped a saintess, causing the vice-leader of the trading alliance to be displeased with him. Thus he was assigned to guard the 7th treasure vault for a year. He felt extremely humiliated. Wasn't she just a saintess of a sub-alliance? So what if he had raped her? Therefore, he had decided to go into seclusion to rank up to the martial sacred realm, so that he could avenge himself. However, he did not expect his mood to turn extremely bad at such a crucial moment, causing him to feel extremely frustrated. Could it be that someone is here to steal my stuff? Du Qishi glanced at the main hall and found that there was no one there. His heart calmed down. It was a relief that no one had stolen his stuff. Otherwise, it would be a serious mistake on his part, which would be disastrous. I shall continue to comprehend the secrets of the martial sacred realm. Once I rank up to the martial sacred realm, I shall rape the saintess again in front of the vice-leader, F***K. Du Qishi cursed and was about to close his eyes to continue cultivating when he suddenly realized that something was not right. Du Qishi glanced toward a corner of the hall, and his face instantly turned pale with a glimpse. What the F***K? Someone was really trying to steal my stuff, and 1/10 of the treasures in the hall was stolen. No wonder he did not feel so frustrated when he had just comprehended the secrets of the martial sacred realm. At that instant 2 furious roars could be heard from the 3rd and 6th palaces. Who the F***K did it? H. F***K me. Du Qishi was stunned hearing the roars. Could it be that he was not the only hall that was robbed? F***K me. This is bad. Du Qishi immediately collected his thoughts and unleashed his cultivation while transmitting his divine sense. If they couldn't catch this person with such a huge theft, even if the 3 of them didn't die, they would at least lose a layer of skin. After Du Qishi transmitted his thoughts, he suddenly discovered a note left in the corner of the hall. What's that? Filled with curiosity, he reached out his hand and grabbed the note, before his face turned even redder. Who the F***K are you trying to trick? Meanwhile, in the conference hall of the Trading Alliance. Great idea, Alliance leader. That Duan Qing won't be able to escape this time. If we're going to make our move, we'll go all out. Brilliant, Alliance leader. The experts expressed their thoughts. The leader of the Trading Alliance let out a grin as he scanned his surroundings. I'll ask Zhu Heng and the 3 stars to poison Duan Qing with some kind of sacred poison, so that he will lose control of his body. He will then tell us the truth. Upon saying this, the eyes of the leader of the Trading Alliance flickered coldly. Today, on the North Street, Duan Qing had taunted him with 2 tokens. How could he not feel the slightest ripple in his heart? He was the leader of the Trading Alliance, a peak martial sacred realm cultivator. Who did a mere Duan Qing think he was? If it weren't for the fact that he did not want to cause a scene, he would have done it long ago. Duan Qing, how are you going to escape this time? The grin on the face of the leader of the Trading Alliance became sinister. However, at that instant, dong! A sharp and irritable sound of a copper bell suddenly exploded in the sky above the entire North Street. At that instant, the grin on the face of the leader of the Trading Alliance stiffened. The crowd was stunned too. The chime of the bell. Did someone rob the treasure hall? Chapter 6:29. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 6:31. Turning blue with anger. The entire North Street fell into a deathly silence the moment the bell rang. A love go little say, W. Chu access. The smiles, annoyance, and gloominess on the faces of the experts froze. That voice. Did someone just rob the Trading Alliance? Bang! At that instant, the entire Northern Street was immersed in an uproar. K me. Did I hear that right? Did someone just rob the Trading Alliance? How impressive! It's been at least 8 years since the last theft. Ha ha ha, I wonder who the culprit is. The faces of these people all revealed the same excited look. The Trading Alliance was well guarded, thus countless thieves had failed to acquire the treasures they were looking for. Who would have thought that someone would be able to rob them this time? How could they not be excited? In contrast to their excitement, the disciples, custodians, elders, and even the supreme elders of the Trading Alliance were in a complete mess, as several powerful auras sprang into the sky. Meanwhile, in the conference hall of the main hall, an elder rushed into the hall and said while panting, Alliance leader, the treasures that were stolen belonged to the third hall. As soon as the elder finished speaking, a voice rang out. The experts collected their thoughts after recovering from the shock. Their faces became incredibly dark. 3 halls had been robbed, resulting in a loss of over 4,000 artifacts, pills, talismans, and discs. Although the loss was not significant compared to the total wealth of the Trading Alliance, most importantly, if the news were to spread to the upper district's eastern continent, it would be a great joke. The Trading Alliance, whose foundation was trading, had failed to protect its own treasures? The voice of the leader of the Trading Alliance turned icy. How bold of you! How dare they rob the Trading Alliance? Vice Leader, activate your heavenly eyes. Supreme Elder, seal off the Northern Street. The rest of you, bring the mirror of God and investigate. Don't let any of them go. Understood. The experts immediately responded and made their move. Marshmallow, in less than 3 breaths' time, the entire Northern Street was sealed off. After 5 breaths' time, the heavenly eye floating in the sky above the palaces of the Trading Alliance emitted a shocking glow, which encapsulated the entire Northern Street and landed on the figures of the cultivators, as if it were trying to see through their true identities. 7 breaths later, the experts led by the elders formed a long line and occupied every exit and alley in every direction of the Northern Street. Their attitude was cold. Every cultivator had to go through the inspection of the celestial connection mirrors. At that instant, the Trading Alliance, one of the 4 great factions, fully displayed its strength. Even those who had reached the pinnacle of the venerable realm, who came to the Northern Street, had no choice but to be interrogated. They were unable to resist. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to going against the Trading Alliance. However, Qin Nan and his crew had already predicted this. Thus they had already left the Northern Street and returned to the Vermilion Bird platoon. Love go little say Kuan the Yellow Soil Dojo. Sima Kong could not help but ask, Chin Nan, what did you leave behind? Chin Nan could not help but let out a smile as he recalled the contents of the note. Something interesting, but I'm not sure if they would believe it. All right, since the Trading Alliance is aware of it, it's time for me to return to the northern street. Sima Kong rose from the ground and said with a chuckle, It's only a small matter this time. Next time I'll rob all 7 palaces. Saying this, his figure vanished with a flicker. Meanwhile, at the northern street of White Tiger City. As time passed bit by bit, the source of the news came out one by one. The expressions of the experts of the Trading Alliance grew increasingly dark. Nothing. Still nothing. Did the thief disappear from the face of the earth? Half an hour later, all the cultivators on the northern street were thoroughly interrogated. Every corner of the street was thoroughly searched, but the result was still nothing. The vendors and experts on the northern street were astounded after hearing the news. Impressive. That's King impressive. Leaving safely after stealing the treasures. Gasp, I heard that a total of 10 sacred weapons and over 10 million primary stones were stolen. The Trading Alliance is going to suffer a great loss this time. That much? My God! Which senior did this? I must pay my respects to him. Many of the experts wore looks of admiration on their faces. That was too impressive. Meanwhile, in the conference hall of the Trading Alliance's main hall, a terrifying saint-level aura flowed through the entire hall like a wave, causing the temperature in the hall to drop to a terrifying level. Even with the defensive formation, a thick layer of ice still crawled up the walls in all directions. The Supreme Elder, the Vice Leaders, the Elders, and the rest of the authorities could feel a chill running down their spines. This time, the Alliance leader was truly infuriated. You didn't find any clues? Fine, everyone withdraw now. The leader of the Trading Alliance transmitted his voice through his badge, before he glanced at the trio with a pair of icy eyes. These 3 were the guards of the 3rd hall, the 6th hall, and the 7th hall. Their figures shuddered after being aware of the Alliance leader's gaze, especially Du Qishi, whose legs began to tremble. You 3. The leader of the Trading Alliance slowly spoke with a demonic voice. You were guarding the center of the hall, but you didn't notice anything? The trio opened their mouths wide, but no one said a word. This time, the thief was too strong. They didn't notice anything at all. Nice. That's great. The leader of the Trading Alliance suddenly spoke. The suppression of the sacred realm from his body grew even more terrifying. The ice crystals on the surrounding walls all exploded, turning into ice shards that filled the air. The vice leaders and the rest of the authorities could feel their eyelids jumping. The Alliance leader was enraged. Wait! Du Qishi's face turned pale as he hesitated for a moment, before he clenched his teeth and said, Alliance. Alliance leader, I have a clue here, but, The leader of the Trading Alliance's figure shuddered as he snapped, Hand it over now. The authorities wore a hint of dissatisfaction in their eyes. What the hell was this Du Qishi doing? If he had a clue, why didn't he hand it over earlier? Du Qishi summoned his courage and handed over the piece of paper that he had picked up. The vice leaders and the rest of the authorities subconsciously glanced at it. The leader of the Trading Alliance lowered his head too. However, when they read the contents of the paper, they were stunned at first, before their faces turned pale. Alliance leader, there's no need to look for it. I'm the culprit. I'm Duan Qing. The words were uttered in a short period of time, causing the face of the leader of the Trading Alliance to turn dark with anger. Duan Qing? Duan Qing? Duan Qing was the culprit, and he even wrote it down so openly. Chapter 630. A Genius Will Remember Love in a Second Divided by Small? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 632, The Recognition of the Four Great Authorities. Following this, the note caused an uproar among the trading alliance and the entire Northern Street. 79 Some assumed that Duan Qing was the culprit behind the theft, who had purposely left the note to confuse the trading alliance. However, most of them assumed that Duan Qing was not the culprit. How could they prove that Duan Qing was the culprit? Even though the leader of the trading alliance and the authorities had the urge to arrest Duan Qing and interrogate him, they had no choice but to clench their teeth and wait for the disordered blood ocean to be activated, before making their move on Duan Qing at the disordered blood ocean. That being said, the trading alliance did not suffer a great loss, but their reputation had suffered a great loss. Meanwhile, in a mountain range not far from the Vermilion Bird platoon. Bang! Following this, the enormous divine battle spirit emitted 8 golden rays and emitted a terrifying absorption force, absorbing the chi of the heavens and earth, which transformed into various kinds of beasts, wind, fire, thunder, and rain, entering Qin Nan's body. As for the surrounding beasts, they were all scared away by the terrifying impact. This was the power of an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit. Since Qin Nan had returned to the Vermilion Bird platoon, he had been cultivating in seclusion. It had been a total of 10 days since he started cultivating. Condense. Qin Nan's eyes sprang open. The martial highness crystal in his body emitted a buzz as it absorbed the qi accumulated in his body, slowly accumulating the force of the martial highness realm, allowing him to accumulate 600 streams of the force of the martial highness realm. Love go small sag w. Even though the divine battle spirit is already 8th grade D ranked, it's still extremely difficult to improve my cultivation by cultivating diligently. Qin Nan mumbled to himself. He had only accumulated 1 stream of force after 10 days. At this rate, he would only be able to accumulate 10 streams of force in 100 days. He had no idea how long it would take for him to reach the peak of the martial highness realm, or even the undefeatable martial highness realm. It's about time. I can go to the chaotic bloodthirsty sea now. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with excitement. There were only a few days left until the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe was accessible. He had to make his way there in advance to learn the situation. He wondered if Tang Qinshan, the Duanmu mountain lord, and the others had successfully achieved the martial sacred realm after a month had passed. Qin Nan, come to the Vermilion Bird platoon. At that instant, Zhou Bihua's voice suddenly appeared from the Vermilion Bird sacred badge. The 4 great masters had awakened? Qin Nan immediately tore open the rift and returned to the Vermilion Bird platoon. As soon as he entered the cultivation hall, he immediately saw the sky-scorching emperor, the blood-winged Vermilion Bird, the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, and Zhou Bihua. Their faces were still slightly pale, and their auras were weak. It was obvious that they still needed some time to fully recover. Duan Qing, you've been keeping me in the dark for a long time. I didn't expect your real identity to be Qin Nan. The sky-scorching emperor was the first to speak, as a wry smile appeared on his face. Qin Nan was slightly startled, before he glanced toward Zhou Bihua and the blood-winged Vermilion Bird. They both wore calm smiles on their faces. Kid, don't worry. Even if you're Qin Nan, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom won't do anything to you. Love go little say, Chu the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise snapped. That being said, what did you do to make the Tao-seeking mountain and progenitor Wen Dao to hunt you down? Upon hearing this, Qin Nan immediately came to a realization, causing his heart to feel relieved. He was quite fond of the sky-scorching emperor and his crew, thus he did not want to fall out with them due to his identity. As for the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise's question, he completely ignored it. Qin Nan, what's your plan now? Zhou Bihua interrupted. Now that Qin Nan had decided to stay in the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, it would not be beneficial for him to improve his strength. His only option was to go out and train himself, experiencing blood and fire. I'm planning to go to the Crimson Blood Disordered Ocean. Qin Nan replied. The Crimson Blood Disordered Ocean, huh? Zhou Bihua let out a sigh and said, The Crimson Blood Disordered Ocean isn't too bad. Even if the succession there has yet to be discovered, there are still other fortunate encounters. However, the place is being watched by the three great factions, thus it's quite dangerous. Tell me, what kind of help do you need? Don't worry about it. Qin Nan pondered for a moment before he blurted out, I need primary stones, the more the better. He had been through a series of events with Zhou Bihua, the blood-winged vermilion bird, and the others, thus they were quite close. The four experts were left speechless hearing this. They did not expect Qin Nan to have such a low request, but most importantly, they were unable to fulfill such a request. Qin Nan, to be honest, we've all suffered serious injuries. The cultivation resources of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom are almost depleted. Even the primary stones we've accumulated were used to exchange for pills and elixirs. The sky-scorching emperor said in an awkward tone. It would be a joke if the sky-scorching ancient kingdom was unable to afford primary stones. Qin Nan did not expect this, but he was not too disappointed as he said with a smile, If that's the case, forget it. I'll think of something myself. As soon as he finished speaking, the hesitation on the sky-scorching emperor's face disappeared, which was replaced by a firm look, as if he had just made up his mind. Qin Nan, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom is indebted to you, thus we won't mistreat you. Here, take this badge. The sky-scorching emperor took a deep breath and handed a badge to Qin Nan. Upon seeing the badge, Qin Nan's eyes widened. The badge was around the size of a palm, with the word scorching carved on it. If the other ministers of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom were to see the badge, they would be utterly dumbfounded. This was the sky-scorching badge. This was the only badge left after the sky-scorching ancient kingdom was established by the deceased emperor. Anyone with the badge would be able to convince the authorities of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom to serve the sky-scorching ancient kingdom without harming the kingdom, including the Vermilion Bird platoon. It was the first time the badge had been given out in the past few thousand years. This isn't. Qin Nan immediately waved his hand to reject it. The badge was too precious for him to accept. You don't have to reject it. You're the reason why the sky-scorching ancient kingdom is able to develop rapidly. Therefore, if you have any request in the future, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom will surely provide you with our full support, the sky-scorching emperor said in a serious tone. Previously, when he had learned Qin Nan's identity from Zhou Bihua, his first thought had been to capture Qin Nan and obtain the secrets that Qin Nan was hiding. However, on second thought, it was all thanks to Qin Nan that the blood-winged vermilion bird and the kingdom protector black tortoise were able to come back to life. Qin Nan was also the reason why the Skyhowl White Tiger's scheme was broken. Furthermore, Qin Nan had given the spirit of the late emperor to the third prince. The sky-scorching ancient kingdom only needed to wait 3 years for a terrifying genius to appear, with a bright future ahead of him. As the ruler of the kingdom, these reasons alone were not enough for him to take the risk. The real reason was the advice that the late emperor had given to him before the third prince had altered his destiny. According to the late emperor's advice, Qin Nan would surely be extraordinary. A young man who had helped them before, a young man with a bright future ahead of him. What reason did the sky-scorching ancient kingdom have not to help him? In addition to the sky-scorching emperor, Zhou Bihua, the blood-winged vermilion bird, and the kingdom protector black tortoise wore stern looks too. After making the decision, it meant that they were supporting Qin Nan. In other words, one day, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom would declare war against the Tao-seeking mountain. Sure. Qin Nan exhaled deeply and said in a serious tone. Regardless of the sky-scorching emperor's intentions, The sky-scorching badge was undoubtedly a great gift. With the support of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, he was no longer alone in the upper district's eastern continent. He now had a formidable presence supporting him. Even if he was hunted by the Tao-seeking mountain, he would be able to protect himself. Seniors, I'll surely repay your kindness once I become the martial emperor. The words were uttered in a firm tone. The four authorities had placed a great bet on a young cultivator. Meanwhile, a junior had made a promise in front of the authorities. "Haha, Qin Nan, come, I'll escort you there myself." The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise was in a great mood. It transformed into its true form and carried Qin Nan on its back as it tore the space apart. Zhou Bihua, the blood-winged vermilion bird, and the sky-scorching emperor could not help but grin upon seeing this. Chapter 631. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 633. The Black Tortoise follows the wind and clouds on this day. Apart from Qin Nan, the disciples of the Wanxiang Pavilion, the Tao-seeking mountain, and the rogue cultivators of the eastern continent had already prepared themselves for the journey to the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood sect. Please go here to read a book. For more information, visit www. Meanwhile, at the main hall of the Trading Alliance. Once we enter the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood sect, we must take down Duan Qing at all costs. The leader of the Trading Alliance snapped with a murderous aura. Before him stood 4 young men. Du Feng and his crew stood in a row, while another young man stood in front of them. Judging from his position, it was obvious that he was the second-ranked genius disciple of the Trading Alliance, Zhu Heng. "Let's go." An elder stood out, sweeping up the private person and tearing apart the void. The old man was none other than the Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance, who was personally escorting them. Meanwhile, in the rift, the giant black tortoise emitted a sacred glow as it dashed across the rift at a shocking speed. Qin Nan stood on the back of the black tortoise and could not help but feel excited. This was the King Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, a martial sacred realm expert, the half-martial ancestor in the past. How could ordinary people stand on its back? Who would have thought that riding on a beast would be so intimidating? If I have the chance, I should find a chance to tame a more terrifying beast and make it my mount. Qin Nan's eyes flickered passionately. Almost every book you want to read is available. It's more stable than the usual websites, and the updates are faster too. There are no advertisements. He was not too interested in wine or treasures. He was only interested in primary stones and sabers. Now, he realized that he was extremely interested in riding a mount. Which man wouldn't want to ride a domineering demon and rule the world? The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise did not expect that in order to fulfill its promise, it would cause the invincible beast to become a mount in the future. "Kid, how much do you know about the chaotic blood ocean?" the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise suddenly asked. I know a little about it," a light flashed in Qin Nan's eyes. The Crimson Blood Chaotic Ocean was not ranked very high among the forbidden areas in the eastern continent of the Upper Province. According to the rumors, there was a mysterious succession in the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe. Even if it did not alter one's destiny, one could still reach the peak of the eastern continent after acquiring it, even though the succession had yet to appear. The disordered Crimson Blood sect has yet to open, but seniors such as Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others were able to enter it and obtain the fortunate encounters to rank up to the martial sacred realm. I believe they must have obtained some kind of succession from it. When Qin Nan thought of this, he suddenly realized this problem. If he did not obtain the inheritance, it would be extremely difficult for him to become a martial sage. Following this, Qin Nan and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise talked about cultivation. This allowed Qin Nan to learn a lot. Although the cultivation methods of demonic beasts and humans were different, the true profoundness was the same. 3 days later, bang! A space suddenly collapsed as the figure of the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise dashed out from it. With a flicker, the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise shrunk a few hundred times, turning into a turtle the size of a palm, before landing on top of Qin Nan's head. It's too eye-catching if it's too huge. Kid, when the time comes, there will be many experts from various factions. I'll leave after sending you to the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood Tribe. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise said, "The disordered ocean city is right in front of you. If you want to enter the disordered ocean, you'll have to obtain the right to enter the disordered ocean city." Qin Nan instinctively lowered his head. He could only see a boundless ocean in the distance. Its water was the color of blood, and there seemed to be a thin veil of light covering the entire place, preventing anyone from entering it. This was the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood Tribe. Beside the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood Tribe stood a city. The walls of the city were made of some kind of blood-colored bricks and tiles. They looked like they were dyed in blood, and they carried a murderous aura. This disordered ocean city was actually a sacred weapon. Obtain the right to enter? What does that mean? Qin Nan asked curiously as he flew toward the city. This disordered ocean city was built by the Luan clan, which has a history of over a few hundred years. The patriarch of the Luan clan once found a treasure in the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood Tribe, which would emit a certain amount of disordered ocean chi every year. Only by obtaining the disordered ocean chi, when the Crimson Blood Tribe's disordered ocean is activated, cultivators would not be affected by the force of the disordered ocean. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise explained, without the disordered ocean chi, even a peak martial highness realm expert would not last more than 3 days in the disordered ocean. I see. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization. In the eastern continent of the Upper District, apart from the 4 great factions, there were other factions of various sizes. The Luan clan of the disordered ocean city was one of them. The man and the beast swiftly arrived at the disordered ocean city and entered the city. As they were entering the city, they even made a fool out of themselves, as they did not have any primary stones on them. They could not even afford 100 primary stones to enter the city. In the end, Qin Nan had no choice but to use the pills that he had stolen from the trading alliance as collateral in order to enter the city. As soon as they entered the city, Qin Nan squinted his eyes. On the wide street, there was an endless stream of cultivators coming and going. These cultivators each had a unique appearance, with obscure auras. Their eyes flickered with excitement, indicating that they had experienced many battles. Most of them were peak martial dominators or early martial highness realm cultivators. Despite that, Qin Nan did not dare to underestimate them. Some of the powerful cultivators preferred to be rogue cultivators instead of being restricted by the factions. Qin Nan spent some pills and found a low-ranked rogue cultivator of the disordered ocean city. He immediately learned that the competition for the disordered ocean chi would take place at the city lord's mansion in 2 days' time. This Luan clan sure knows how to make money. I'll have to sign up if I want to compete for the disordered ocean chi. The registration alone cost me 5,000 primary stones worth of pills. Qin Nan smacked his lips. How rich would it be if there were 5,000 rogue cultivators participating in the competition? Let's find a place to stay first. Qin Nan made up his mind and proceeded forward. The spacious blood-red street was crowded with people. Suddenly, a black-robed cultivator passed by Qin Nan. Qin Nan was startled. Was that her? When Qin Nan turned around, the black-robed cultivator had disappeared without a trace. Kid, why does that black-robed cultivator look like the one who killed the second prince? The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise could not help but ask. After Qin Nan's identity was exposed, the authorities of the sky-scorching emperor and the others were aware that the person who had killed the second prince was someone else. It's her indeed. I didn't expect Jiang Bailan to be here too. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. This Jiang Bailan had taken over her body and suppressed the Death Emperor's soul. Why would she be here at the disordered Ocean City? Why would she avoid meeting him when she had just discovered his presence? Something's not right. Qin Nan ignored the doubts of the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise and entered an inn to cultivate. At that instant, a great commotion took place at the entrance of the disordered Ocean City. Zhu Hang! Zhu Hang is here too? F***K me. Are you kidding me? Why would a genius like him come to the disordered Ocean City? Chapter 632. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 634. The astounding black tortoise. As the entire disordered Ocean City was immersed in an uproar, Qin Nan tried to communicate with the copper mirror to see if it was able to contact Tang Qingshan and the others. However, as he had expected, the copper mirror ignored him. Accessed. Always unreliable at crucial moments, Qin Nan was left speechless. He had a love-hate relationship with this copper mirror. Following this, he collected his thoughts and prepared to practice the sleeping Buddha method. What followed next would surely be a fierce battle, thus he had to train his mind to its peak. However, right at this moment, a scorching sensation began to ripple through his blood. The feeling was incredibly familiar. Qin Nan wore a smile on his face. On second thought, it had been a while since he last saw the princess. The black tortoise lying on top of him opened one of its eyes as it was aware of something. Following this, it saw a light screen being emitted, from which a glamorous figure could be seen. What the F***K? The black tortoise stared with its eyes open wide. What kind of trick was that? Thousand-Li image transmission? Even a peak martial sacred realm cultivator wouldn't be able to do that. Qin Nan. The image was filled with green mountains and clear waters, as if it were an immortal realm. A glamorous woman stood at the peak of the mountain. Her face was flawless, while her eyes flickered with excitement. Qin Nan's figure shuddered when he heard the words. Since the princess had gone to the Mu clan, her charm had grown stronger. Even her voice was pleasant to the ears, as if it was flowing into one's heart. What are you doing? Princess Meow Meow blinked her eyes. I heard that you robbed the trading alliance a while ago. Where did this tortoise above your head come from? Princess Meow Meow stared at the black tortoise. Puff. Qin Nan almost vomited blood as he blurted out, Princess, this is Senior Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, the godly beast of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. It's escorting me to the chaotic blood ocean. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise recovered from its shock, and its face turned green when it heard the word bastard. In its entire life, what it hated the most was being called a tortoise. Even if it was a beautiful woman, it wouldn't do. Junior, the Country Protector Black Tortoise said in a low voice. Its voice was filled with a heavy pressure, as if it was going to pass through the light screen and enter the Book of Souls. Tisk, Qin Nan, don't be fooled by it. It's just a tortoise. Princess Meow Meow had a disdainful look on her face, but then she thought it was inappropriate, so she relented and said, All right, since you're escorting my Qin Nan, I'll call you Turtle, damn you. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise was infuriated and roared, Junior, don't be so arrogant. Princess Meow Meow's eyes immediately turned cold. An indescribable pressure descended upon them, as if it had transcended time and space. The pressure was an innate nobility. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise felt a chill down its spine. For some reason, the beautiful woman was making it tremble like never before. What was going on? Was she a powerful beast? Don't be rude. Qin Nan straightened his face and snapped in a low voice. The coldness in Princess Miao Miao's eyes immediately disappeared. She harumphed and said, "All right, I'll stop talking about it. By the way, Qin Nan, have you prepared wine for me?" Qin Nan let out a relieved sigh when he saw the change in her attitude. The princess was fearless. If he did not stop her, the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise would vomit blood due to anger. "Here's your wine." Qin Nan cast an apologetic look at the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, before he immediately took out the bottles of wine. The time of the illusionary mirror was limited, thus he had to cherish every breath he took. "Wow! So many! I want to drink some." Princess Miao Miao's pair of glittering eyes instantly glistened, as if she was drooling with desire. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise was dumbfounded. This mysterious woman had been emitting a terrifying aura just a moment ago. Why did she suddenly become so adorable after seeing the wine? However, the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise was slightly angry. Qin Nan did not apologize to it just because he wanted to talk to the woman. How could this Qin Nan be so disrespectful to his seniors? Qin Nan. Princess Miao Miao sniffed twice, as if she was sniffing the aroma of the wine across a boundless space, before she said in a pitiful tone, "You must bring the wine back to the Mu clan in one piece. Don't let them get hurt." "Not a problem." Qin Nan's heart tightened seeing her reaction, before he subconsciously agreed. As for the angry Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, it was stunned. "Mu clan? Did it just hear the words Mu clan? Wait, I think you're at the disordered bloodthirsty ocean, right?" the princess asked as a sudden thought crossed her mind. "I'm currently at the disordered ocean city, competing for the disordered ocean chi in 2 days' time." Qin Nan said. "That?" Princess Miao Miao pondered for a moment before saying, "I'll ask the Mu clan for you. They should have some ancient records about it." As she spoke, her figure flashed and disappeared from the screen. Meanwhile, the Black Tortoise's eyes were filled with astonishment. "Mu clan? It's really the Mu clan. I didn't hear it wrong. This woman was actually from the Mu clan?" The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise stared at the scenery for a while, before it suddenly recalled that it had seen the same scenery when it visited the Mu clan in the past. In other words, gasp. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise was utterly dumbfounded. It did not expect this woman to have such a formidable background, and to be so close to Qin Nan. "Qin Nan, is this Princess Miao Miao from the Mu clan?" The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise withheld its astonishment and asked. "Yeah? Why?" Qin Nan nodded his head, before he immediately asked as a sudden thought crossed his mind, "Senior, where exactly is this Mu clan?" "You don't know?" The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise was astounded. It did not expect Qin Nan to be clueless about the Mu clan despite being in the Eastern continent for such a long time. "You'll know when the time comes." The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise collected its thoughts and said. Qin Nan was left speechless. Wasn't it just a place? Was there a need to be so mysterious? However, little did he know that the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise's heart was filled with astonishment. Judging from the woman's tone, she was most likely not someone from the Mu clan, but her status in the Mu clan was definitely not too low. Being able to be related to the Mu clan, if it was a formidable relationship, it would be extremely terrifying in the Eastern continent. It seems like our sky-scorching ancient kingdom has made the right decision. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise was relieved. He was hiding many secrets, the deceased emperor was fond of him, and was somehow related to the Mu clan. It had no doubt that Qin Nan would surely rise in the future. "I'm back." Princess Miao Miao reappeared in the image and said, "I've found some martial arts. I'll teach you now." With a single thought, a bloody ocean will be opened, causing the god of chaos to fly away. She spoke at a rapid pace, as if she were explaining the great Tao. Each of her words produced the sound of waves in the surroundings. It turned out to be an extremely powerful ancient martial art. Upon seeing this, Qin Nan immediately gathered his focus, not daring to let his guard down. Chapter 633. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? Sagnet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 635. Gathering of the Dragons. As Princess Miao Miao continued to read the words, a martial art was formed in Qin Nan's mind. Love go little say, W Chu, -79. The martial art was known as the disordered ocean art. If mastered to the highest level, the user would be able to control the waves of the ocean, granting them incredible power. The sleeping Buddha style from before and the disordered ocean technique now. I'm sure the princess must have put in a lot of effort to obtain these two ancient techniques. I guess I'll have to get her some good wine in the future, Qin Nan mumbled to himself. Following this, he immersed his thoughts into the disordered ocean art and began to practice it. Princess Miao Miao's eyes flickered when she saw Qin Nan immersing himself in his cultivation. Following this, she glanced at the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise and said in a cold tone, I'm aware of everything that has happened in the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. I hope you will be able to help Qin Nan in the end. This is your chance. Despite being one of the four great factions, helping Qin Nan was described as an opportunity. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise did not refute, but nodded its head instead. Princess, don't worry. The sky-scorching ancient kingdom has long been on Qin Nan's side. If he's in trouble, we'll do our best. That would be great. Princess Miao Miao nodded her head and calmly said, It won't take long for me to be promoted to the guest elder of the Mu clan. I believe you understand what it means to be a guest elder of the Mu clan, where rules are strictly enforced. The moment he said this, as expected, the country protecting Black Tortoise's expression changed. If she were to become the guest elder of the Mu clan, that would be incredible. Princess Miao Miao didn't continue speaking. Her fair hands rested on her delicate chin as she blinked her big eyes and looked at Qin Nan, who was in the midst of cultivation. Even when the light screen distorted and slowly faded away, she was still like this, quietly watching it, as if she was unwilling to waste even a single glance. The light screen disappeared completely, and the Black Tortoise heaved a sigh of relief. It was also very strange. After all, it was a half-martial ancestor, but in front of this woman, it felt more and more respectful. This ancient martial art is most likely related to the disordered Crimson Blood Ocean. Once Qin Nan enters the disordered Crimson Blood Ocean, he won't have any problems. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise mumbled to itself. It glanced at Qin Nan and slowly closed its eyes. Qin Nan would need at least half a day to learn this ancient technique, so it decided to take a short nap. Shwa! At that instant, Qin Nan's eyes sprang open all of a sudden. A blue glow was emitted from his body. Not long after, a faint sound of waves could be heard coming out from his body, which grew louder, until it sounded like the roar of a raging ocean. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise's face was filled with astonishment, which was even more shocking than when it learned that the woman was from the Mu clan. The reason being that Qin Nan had only learned the ancient martial art in less than the period it took an incense to burn. He had already mastered the basics of the ancient martial art in such a short time? Even someone with a 10th grade D-ranked martial spirit wouldn't be able to do that. Phew, I didn't expect it to be this easy to learn the ancient martial art. Love Go Xiao Seg W. Chu. Qin Nan wore a hint of joy on his face as he mumbled, If I'm not mistaken, it's most likely that my left eye of the divine god of battle has grown stronger due to the improvement of my cultivation, thus improving my martial skill talent. Initially, his left eye of the divine god of battle was able to memorize the entire martial art with a single glance. Now that his cultivation base had improved, it was easier for him to see through the mysteries of Dermic art. That being said, My cultivation is still too weak to activate the left arm of the divine god of battle. Qin Nan glanced at his left arm. He was looking forward to seeing the destructive power of the left arm of the divine god of battle that sacred leader Qin Long had transformed into, when he was able to use it. Senior, what are you? Qin Nan was startled, as the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise had appeared before him with its eyes wide open and its mouth wide open, as if it were staring at a monster. No, nothing, stop staring, it's really nothing. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise collected its thoughts and shook its head in a panic. It would never admit that it was stunned by Qin Nan's martial skill talent despite its cultivation of the peak martial sacred realm. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. Knock, knock, knock. A series of knocks could be heard coming from outside. Whoosh! Qin Nan's figure instantly landed in front of the door. His body tensed as his eyes became extremely ferocious. He and the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise had not met anyone in the disordered Ocean City that they were familiar with. Who could it be? Jiang Bailan? Filled with doubts, he reached out his hand and opened the door. The phoenix soul-consuming fire in his body was unleashed. If anything were to happen, he would be able to execute the attack instantly. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise squinted its eyes too. Master Duan Qing, I'm a guard of the City Lord's mansion of the disordered Ocean City. I'm here on the City Lord's order to invite you to the gathering of the dragons. Outside the door, a silver-armored guard brought his fists together respectfully. He knew that the young man before him was currently ranked 33rd on the Hidden Dragon ranking. You know who I am? Qin Nan's eyes flickered coldly. If his guess was correct, the moment he entered the Chaotic Sea City, he was probably targeted by the Luan clan of the Chaotic Sea City. How cunning of the Luan clan! The silver-armored guard could feel a chill running down his spine. He had expected Qin Nan to be infuriated, but he could not utter a single word when he opened his mouth, as if his tongue was stuck in his mouth. This man. His gaze alone was terrifying. The 3 stars of the Trading Alliance were nothing compared to it. What's the gathering of the dragons? Qin Nan's eyes calmed down. There was no reason for him to be fussy with a mere guard. Every time the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood Tribe is activated, the City Lord's mansion of the disordered Ocean City will hold a gathering of the dragons of the 4 great factions and some reputable rogue cultivators to discuss martial arts, the guard explained. Qin Nan immediately understood that the City Lord's mansion was trying to recruit the geniuses by holding the gathering of the dragons. Master Duan Qing, I'm not sure if I should say this. Zhu Hang and the 3 stars of the Trading Alliance are here today. Besides, the disciples of the Wanxiang Pavilion and the Dao-Seeking Mountain are here too. The guard hesitated for a moment before speaking while clenching his teeth. Zhu Hang? The 3 stars? The disciples of the Dao-Seeking Mountain and the Wanxiang Pavilion? Qin Nan was slightly startled hearing this. Thanks. Qin Nan flicked his finger and handed a pill to the guard. The guard was overjoyed after receiving the pill, who expressed his gratitude and handed him the invitation before leaving the place. I've heard of this Zhu Hang and the 3 stars before. They are all ranked on the Hidden Dragon ranking. If I'm not mistaken, this Zhu Hang is quite impressive, with a 9th grade D-ranked martial spirit. He should be ranked in the top 15 on the Hidden Dragon ranking. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise said. Is that so? Qin Nan's lips curled upward slightly. The succession of the disordered Ocean City had yet to appear, but the geniuses ranked on the Hidden Dragon ranking of the Trading Alliance were all here? Let's go take a look then. Qin Nan made up his mind. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.